The moment Ethan Cole looked up from his menu and saw Lena Park walking toward his table, he knew his life was about to get complicated. Not because she was beautiful, though she was. Not because she was a stranger, she wasn't. But because Lena Park was the one person at work who made his blood boil, who questioned every decision he made, who represented everything controlled and cold that he'd been running from. And now, thanks to his meddling sister and a cosmic joke he didn't find funny, she was his blind date. Before we dive into this story of unexpected love, workplace enemies, and second chances, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Now, let's begin. The parking lot of Marcello's Italian restaurant was nearly empty when Ethan Cole pulled his 10-year-old Chevy into a spot far from the entrance. He sat there for a moment, hands still gripping the steering wheel, engine ticking as it cooled. Through the restaurant's large front windows, he could see candlelit tables, couples leaning toward each other, the warm glow of what was supposed to be romance. He wanted to be anywhere else. Just 1 hour, he muttered to himself, finally killing the engine. Get through dinner, tell Rachel you tried, and never let her set you up again. Rachel, his younger sister, the woman who'd somehow convinced herself that Ethan's life was incomplete without a relationship, who'd pestered him for 3 months straight until he had agreed to this nightmare. A blind date, at 38 years old, with a woman whose name he couldn't even remember right now because his brain had filed it under things I don't want to deal with. Ethan checked his reflection in the rearview mirror. The fluorescent lights of the parking lot weren't doing him any favors. Lines around his eyes that hadn't been there 5 years ago. Gray creeping into his dark hair at the temples. He looked tired because he was tired. Tired from double shifts at the warehouse. Tired from single parenting an 8-year-old girl who had more energy than a nuclear reactor. Tired from existing in the narrow space between keeping it together and barely holding on. He grabbed his jacket from the passenger seat, the nice one Rachel had insisted he wear, not his usual work hoodie, and forced himself out of the car. The October air was crisp, carrying the smell of coming rain. Ethan walked slowly toward the restaurant, each step feeling heavier than the last. This whole thing was a mistake. He didn't have time for dating, didn't have the energy for small talk and getting to know you questions, didn't have the emotional bandwidth to let someone new into the carefully constructed routine that kept him and Mia afloat. But Rachel had played dirty. She'd used Mia against him. Don't you want her to see what a healthy relationship looks like? His sister had asked during their last argument about this. Don't you want her to know that love is possible even after heartbreak? Low blow. Rachel knew exactly how to hit where it hurt. The truth was, Ethan did want those things for Mia. He wanted her to grow up believing in love, in partnership, in the idea that people could build something beautiful together. He just didn't believe those things were possible for him anymore. Not after Jennifer, not after the divorce that had gutted him and left him raising a toddler alone while his ex-wife moved across the country to find herself. 6 years. It had been 6 years since the divorce, and Ethan still felt like he was walking through life with a piece of himself missing. He reached the restaurant door and paused, hand on the handle. Through the glass, he could see the hostess station, the bar area with its warm wood and gleaming bottles, the dining room beyond, normal people on normal dates, doing normal things. You can do this, he told himself. It's just dinner, food, conversation. Then you go home to Mia and forget this ever happened. The thought of his daughter waiting at his mom's house, probably still awake despite it being past her bedtime, probably telling her grandmother elaborate stories about the soccer game she'd played that afternoon, made him smile. Mia was his anchor, his reason for everything. If getting through one awkward dinner meant Rachel would stop nagging him and he could prove to his daughter that he was trying, then fine. He'd do it. Ethan pulled open the door. The warmth of the restaurant hit him immediately, along with the smell of garlic, tomato sauce, and fresh bread. It was a small place, family-owned from the look of it, with maybe 20 tables scattered across a dining room decorated in predictable Italian-American style. Checkered tablecloths, Chianti bottles with candles melted down their sides, framed photos of the Amalfi Coast on the walls. Good evening. The hostess was a young woman with a bright smile and a tablet in her hands. Do you have a reservation? Yeah. Cole. Table for 2 at 7:30. She tapped her screen, nodded. Perfect. Your table is ready? Follow me, please." Ethan followed her through the dining room, past couples and families, feeling increasingly out of place in his borrowed confidence. The hostess led him to a corner table, quiet, semi-private, with a candle already flickering in the center, the kind of table that screamed romantic dinner. He wanted to die. "Your server will be right with you," the hostess said cheerfully, placing 2 menus on the table. "Can I start you with some water?" "Sure, thanks." She disappeared, and Ethan was left alone with the candle and his dread. He sat down, picked up the menu without really seeing it. His mind was already calculating how long he'd need to stay to be polite. Order an appetizer? Probably. Entree, definitely. Dessert? Maybe he could claim he was full. If he could get out of here by 9, he'd still have time to tuck Mia in, assuming his mom hadn't already let her stay up watching cartoons. The waiter appeared, a middle-aged man with a thick mustache and an Italian accent that might or might not have been real. "Good evening, sir. Something to drink while you wait?" "Just water for now," Ethan said. "I'm waiting for someone." Of course. Take your time. Look at the menu. We have excellent specials tonight. The osso buco, very good. The chef's grandmother's recipe." "Great, thanks." The waiter left. Ethan checked his phone, 7:28 p.m. His date was supposed to arrive in 2 minutes. Rachel had promised to text him a description. "You'll know her when you see her," his sister had said cryptically, which was exactly the kind of non-helpful information that made Ethan want to strangle her. He opened their text thread. "Rachel. Her name is Lena. She'll be wearing something blue. You're going to love her." Ethan. "I'm not going to love her. I'm going to eat dinner and leave." Rachel. "Just give her a chance, please, for me?" Ethan. "I'm doing this for you. Remember that when it's a disaster." Rachel. "It won't be a disaster. I have a good feeling about this one." Ethan shoved his phone back in his pocket. Rachel's good feelings had a terrible track record. This was going to be painful. He tried to relax, scanning the restaurant without being obvious about it. A couple in their 50s celebrating an anniversary. A family with 2 young kids who were miraculously well behaved. A pair of businessmen at the bar, ties loosened, laughing over wine. Normal Friday night stuff. 7:30 became 7:32, then 7:35. Maybe she wouldn't show up. Maybe this Lena person had taken one look at the restaurant and decided she had better things to do with her Friday night. Ethan couldn't blame her. He kind of hoped she wouldn't show, actually. Then he could tell Rachel he'd tried, order some takeout for the drive home, and call it a night. 7:38. He was about to text Rachel and tell her the date was a bust when the restaurant door opened. Ethan glanced up automatically, then did a double take. No. Walking through the door, pausing to speak with the hostess, wearing a dark blue blouse that probably counted as something blue, was a woman he recognized immediately. A woman he saw 5 days a week. A woman whose name appeared in his work email at least a dozen times a day, usually attached to messages that began with "per my last email" or "as previously discussed." Lena Park. Ethan's brain short-circuited. Lena Park from the warehouse. Lena Park from quality control. Lena Park, who had made his life as a shift supervisor significantly more difficult for the past year and a half with her rigid adherence to protocols, her refusal to bend even the smallest rule, her icy professionalism that made every interaction feel like a performance review. Lena Park, who was now walking directly toward his table with the hostess leading the way. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. Ethan watched in slow-motion horror as Lena followed the hostess through the dining room. She looked different outside of work. Her dark hair was down instead of pulled back in its usual severe bun, and the blue blouse she wore was actually nice, fitted, professional but softer than her usual warehouse attire. She was looking down at her phone, not paying attention to where she was going, trusting the hostess to guide her. The hostess stopped at his table. Lena looked up. Their eyes met. For a moment, a long, terrible moment, neither of them moved, neither of them spoke. They just stared at each other with matching expressions of dawning horror. The hostess, blissfully unaware of the disaster unfolding, gestured to the table. "Here you are. Enjoy your dinner." She walked away. Ethan and Lena remained frozen, standing on opposite sides of a table neither of them wanted to be at. "No," Lena said finally, her voice quiet but firm. No, there's been a mistake. You're telling me, Ethan managed, his mouth dry. This is my table. I'm meeting someone here. So am I. Lena's eyes narrowed. What are you doing here, Cole? Having dinner. What does it look like? It looks like you're at my table. Your table? I made this reservation 3 days ago. So did I. They stared at each other again, reality beginning to settle in with the weight of a collapsing building. Wait, Ethan said slowly. What's your reservation name? Lena's jaw tightened. Park. Table for 2 at 7:30. You? Cole. Table for 2 at 7:30. The silence that followed was deafening. Ethan felt his stomach drop. No, this wasn't possible. Rachel wouldn't... She couldn't have... He grabbed his phone, pulling up his sister's contact. Lena was doing the same thing with her own phone, her fingers moving with sharp, angry precision. Who set you up? Ethan asked, dreading the answer. My friend Diana. Lena didn't look up from her phone. She works with your sister Rachel at the hospital. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Lena's head snapped up. Rachel Cole is your sister? Unfortunately. Diana Park is my friend. They looked at each other with new understanding and new fury. They planned this, Lena said, her voice cold. They absolutely planned this. Ethan wanted to throw his phone across the restaurant. Rachel's been pushing me to go on this blind date for months. I should have known something was off when she got all secretive about who it was with. Diana did the same thing. Lena's grip on her phone was white-knuckled. She kept saying I needed to put myself out there and that she knew someone perfect for me, someone stable and responsible with a good heart. Under any other circumstances, Ethan might have been flattered by that description. Right now, he just felt betrayed. This is insane, he said. We work together. They know we work together. They know we can't stand each other, Lena corrected sharply. The words stung more than they should have. I can stand you just fine, Park. You're the one who acts like every decision I make is wrong. Because half the time they are. You cut corners, you let your team ignore protocols, and you wonder why we have quality control issues. Here we go, Ethan interrupted, his voice rising slightly. You know what? I'm not doing this. Not here. Not tonight. Agreed. Lena was already turning away. This was obviously a mistake. I'm leaving. Great. Me too. But before either of them could take a step, their waiter reappeared, materializing out of nowhere with the kind of timing that suggested he'd been watching the drama unfold. Ah, the lovely couple is here. He beamed at them, holding 2 glasses of water. Please, please sit. I bring you our special appetizer, complimentary for such a beautiful young pair. You sit. You relax. I'll be right back. He practically pushed them into their chairs, setting down the water glasses with a flourish before disappearing again. Ethan and Lena sat across from each other, trapped by Italian hospitality and their own social awkwardness. We should just go, Lena said, not moving. Absolutely, Ethan agreed, also not moving. Another beat of silence. Why aren't we leaving? Lena asked. Because it would be rude? Since when do you care about being rude? I care about not making a scene in a restaurant, Ethan shot back. Unlike some people, I don't enjoy public confrontation. Lena's eyes flashed. That's rich coming from someone who argued with me for 20 minutes in the break room last Tuesday about proper pallet stacking procedures. Because your proper procedures would have added 3 hours to my team's shift and prevented the safety violation that nearly got your forklift operator crushed. They were both leaning forward now, voices rising, the candlelight between them doing nothing to soften the tension. The waiter returned with a plate of bruschetta and an expression of determined cheerfulness. For you. Fresh tomatoes, basil from our garden, beautiful olive oil. You eat, you enjoy, you fall in love with our food, and maybe with each other, eh? He winked. I give you a few minutes to look at the menu. Take your time, no rush. He vanished again before either of them could protest. Ethan stared at the bruschetta. Lena stared at her water glass. This is a nightmare, she said quietly. Yep. Rachel and Diana are going to pay for this. Oh, absolutely. I'm thinking public humiliation. Maybe we post their worst photos on social media. Despite herself, Lena's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Diana has this picture from college where she had terrible bangs. She made me swear never to show anyone. Rachel has one from her goth phase, black lipstick, the whole thing. They looked at each other, and for just a second, the hostility cracked. Just a hairline fracture, barely visible, but there. Then Lena's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her expression hardened again. Diana, Ethan guessed. Asking how it's going. Lena's fingers flew across her screen. I'm telling her exactly how it's going. Ethan's phone buzzed too. Rachel, of course. Rachel. So? How is she? You're welcome, by the way. He typed back with more force than necessary. This was a setup. You set me up with Lena Park. We work together, Rachel. You know we work together. The reply came almost immediately. I know, that's the point. You guys would be perfect together if you stopped being stubborn. Ethan. We're leaving. Don't ever do this again. Rachel. Just give it an hour, please, 1 hour. If you still hate each other after that, I'll never interfere again. I promise. Ethan looked up. Lena was still furiously texting, her jaw set in that way that meant she was really angry. Her phone buzzed with a response, and she read it with an expression that clearly said she was getting the same speech he was. Diana wants us to stay for an hour, Lena said flatly. Rachel, too. She says if we leave now, she'll never stop setting me up on blind dates. Rachel's threatening to tell my mom I'm not trying hard enough to move on. They looked at each other across the table, two people trapped by well-meaning friends and family who clearly had no idea what they'd done. An hour, Lena said. It wasn't a question. 1 hour, Ethan agreed. We eat dinner, we make it clear this was a disaster, and we never speak of this again. Fine. Fine. They picked up their menus in unison, hiding behind laminated lists of Italian-American cuisine like shields. The silence that followed was thick enough to cut with a knife, or maybe with the butter knife sitting next to Ethan's water glass. From behind his menu, Ethan snuck a glance at Lena. She was reading hers with the same focused intensity she brought to quality control reports, her dark eyes scanning each item like she was checking for defects. Her hair, loose around her shoulders, caught the candlelight in a way that was annoyingly distracting. He'd never seen her with her hair down before. At work, it was always pulled back, professional and severe. This was different. He forced his attention back to his menu. Chicken parmesan, fettuccine alfredo, lasagna, words that meant nothing because his brain was still trying to process this situation. Of all the people in the city, hell, in the entire state, Rachel had set him up with Lena Park. Lena Park, who had sent him 17 emails last month about proper temperature logging procedures. Lena Park, who had written him up for allowing his team to take a 15-minute break instead of the regulation 10. Lena Park, who represented everything in his work life that made him want to quit and become a hermit in the woods. And apparently, according to his sister and her friend Diana, they were perfect for each other. The waiter returned, pen and pad ready. You have decided? What can I bring you tonight? Ethan ordered the first thing his eyes landed on. Spaghetti carbonara. Excellent choice. And for the beautiful lady? Lena didn't even look up from her menu. Chicken marsala, salad instead of pasta on the side. Dressing on the side. Of course, of course. And to drink? Wine, perhaps? We have beautiful Chianti. Just water, they said in unison. The waiter's enthusiasm dimmed slightly, but he rallied. Water, very healthy. I bring your food soon. He left with their menus, and suddenly Ethan and Lena had nothing to hide behind. The silence stretched. Ethan watched a drop of condensation slide down his water glass. Lena adjusted her silverware so it was perfectly aligned. This was going to be the longest hour of his life. So, Lena said finally, her voice clipped and professional, like they were in a meeting. How do you want to handle this? Handle what? This, she gestured between them. At work, Monday morning. Do we pretend this never happened, or we definitely pretend this never happened? Ethan said quickly. I vote for complete amnesia about tonight. Agreed. Lena picked up her water glass, took a sip. Although people are going to ask, Rachel and Diana probably told everyone they know. Ethan groaned. My mom knows I had a date tonight. She's watching Mia. She's going to interrogate me the second I walk in. Your mom watches your daughter? Lena's tone shifted slightly, less cold. That's nice of her. Yeah, well, single parent life. You take all the help you can get. Mia, right? Your daughter's name is Mia? Ethan looked up, surprised. How did you know that? For the first time since sitting down, Lena looked uncomfortable. You talk about her sometimes. At work. I hear things. Oh. Ethan wasn't sure what to do with that information. He did talk about Mia at work, probably too much, honestly. But he hadn't realized Lena paid attention. She's 8, obsessed with soccer right now, and dinosaurs, and asking questions I don't know how to answer. Like what? This morning she asked me why people fall out of love. Ethan didn't know why he was telling her this. Maybe because the question had been weighing on him all day. Maybe because talking about Mia was easier than talking about anything else. I didn't know what to say. Lena was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer than he'd ever heard it. What did you tell her? That sometimes people change, and the love changes too. But that doesn't mean it was never real. That's actually a good answer. Yeah, well, I made it up on the spot. No idea if it's right. Ethan took a drink of water. What about you? Do you have kids? No. The word was final, closing that door. Never married. No kids. By choice, or does it matter? I guess not. Ethan backed off, sensing a boundary. Sorry, I'm just making conversation, since we're stuck here. We're not stuck. We chose to stay. Because our families blackmailed us. Emotional manipulation isn't the same as blackmail. Spoken like someone who's never had Rachel Cole as a sister. That almost smile flickered across Lena's face again. So quick, Ethan almost missed it. The waiter brought them salads, Caesar for Ethan, garden for Lena with dressing on the side as requested. They ate in silence for a few minutes, the sounds of the restaurant filling the space between them. Soft Italian music playing from hidden speakers. The murmur of other conversations. The clink of silverware on plates. It was weird, Ethan thought, seeing Lena like this. Out of context. At work, she was always in motion, always checking something, measuring something, documenting something with that tablet she carried everywhere. She was a force of nature and quality control, impossible to ignore and equally impossible to argue with because she was always, annoyingly, right. But here, in candlelight, eating salad and not talking about work protocols, she seemed different, smaller somehow, more human. Can I ask you something? Ethan said, breaking the silence. Lena looked wary. Depends on the question. Why do you hate me? He hadn't meant to ask that. The words just came out, fueled by curiosity and the surreal nature of the entire evening. Lena's fork paused halfway to her mouth. I don't hate you. You act like you do. Every email you send me is basically a passive-aggressive lecture. Every time we're in the same room, you find something I'm doing wrong. That's not... Lena set down her fork, precisely, carefully. That's my job, Cole. Quality control means controlling quality. If I see something that could be done better, I point it out. It's not personal. It feels personal. Well, it's not. Her voice had gone cold again, defensive. And if you took half the feedback I give you seriously instead of fighting me on everything, maybe we wouldn't clash so much. I don't fight you on everything. I fight you when you're being unreasonable. Unreasonable? Following safety protocols is unreasonable? When those protocols were written 30 years ago and don't account for modern equipment? Yes! They were doing it again. Falling into the same argument pattern they'd repeated 100 times at work. Ethan could see it happening, could feel the familiar frustration rising, but couldn't seem to stop it. Lena apparently couldn't either. Those protocols exist for a reason. To cover the company's legal exposure, not to actually keep people safe. You don't get to decide which safety measures matter. And you don't get to treat my team like they're idiots who can't think for themselves. I never said they were idiots. I said they needed proper training on updated procedures, which takes time we don't have when we're already short-staffed. Then maybe you should talk to management about hiring instead of taking it out on me. They both stopped abruptly, breathing hard, glaring at each other across the table like they were in a boxing ring instead of a restaurant. A couple at the next table was staring at them. Ethan sat back, rubbing his face. This is exactly why this was a terrible idea. Agreed. Lena's hands were shaking slightly. She clasped them together in her lap, hiding it. We can't even get through a salad without arguing. To be fair, you started it. Lena's eyes flashed. Then she closed them, took a deep breath. You know what? You're right. I did start it. I'm sorry. Ethan blinked. In a year and a half of working with Lena Park, he'd never heard her apologize for anything. I'm sorry too, he said, surprising himself. I shouldn't have, I don't know. I'm defensive. About my team. About how I run my shift. It's not your fault I take it personally when you're just doing your job. Lena opened her eyes, looking at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Diana said you were stubborn. Rachel said you were intimidating. I'm not intimidating. You're a little intimidating. That's ridiculous. You once made a warehouse manager cry by pointing out errors in his documentation. He was falsifying temperature logs. That could have caused serious... Lena stopped herself, took another breath. Okay, maybe I can be intense about my work. Intense is one word for it. What word would you use? Ethan considered. Passionate? That surprised her. He could see it in the way her eyebrows lifted slightly, the way her shoulders relaxed a fraction. I'm passionate about a lot of things, she said quietly. Food safety happens to be one of them. Why? Why food safety? Yeah, I mean, it's not exactly the most exciting field. No offense. Lena was quiet for a moment, turning her water glass slowly in her hands. My grandmother got sick when I was 12. Food poisoning from a restaurant that wasn't following proper protocols. She was in the hospital for 3 weeks, almost died. Oh, Ethan felt like an ass. I'm sorry, I didn't know. How would you? We've never talked about anything that wasn't work-related. Lena met his eyes. She recovered, obviously, but it changed how I saw things. Something as simple as someone not washing their hands, not checking a temperature log, not following basic procedures, it can destroy lives. So yeah, I take it seriously. Maybe too seriously sometimes. Ethan didn't know what to say. He'd spent over a year thinking of Lena Park as an obstacle, an annoyance, someone who made his job harder. He'd never considered that she might have her own reasons, her own history, her own trauma driving her actions. The waiter arrived with their entrees, breaking the moment. He set down plates with a flourish, refilled their water glasses, asked if they needed anything else. They both shook their heads, and he disappeared again. Ethan looked down at his carbonara. It smelled amazing, garlic and cheese and black pepper. His stomach reminded him he'd skipped lunch. This actually looks really good, he admitted. Yeah. Lena was cutting her chicken into precise, even pieces. Diana said this place had good reviews, and Rachel said the same thing. They ate in silence for a while, but it was different now. Less hostile, more thoughtful. Can I ask you something? Lena said. Fair's fair. Go ahead. Why did you agree to this? The blind date, I mean. You don't seem like someone who enjoys this sort of thing. Ethan laughed, a short, humorless sound. I don't. I hate this. No offense. None taken. I hate it too. Rachel wouldn't stop pushing, and he hesitated. My daughter asked me last week why I never go on dates. She said her friend's dad has a girlfriend, and she wondered why I didn't. I didn't know how to explain that I'm basically done with romance without making her think love is a bad thing. So you're doing this for her? Pretty much. Terrible reason, right? No. Lena's voice was soft. I think it's actually kind of sweet. Misguided, but sweet. What about you? Why'd you say yes? Lena pushed chicken around her plate. Diana thinks I'm lonely. She's not wrong, exactly, but I'm not good at this. Dating, relationships. I spend too much time working. I'm too particular about things. Most men get about 2 dates in before they decide I'm too much effort. Too much effort. Too intense, remember? She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I've been told I'm exhausting to be around. By idiots, apparently. Lena looked up, surprised. Ethan shrugged. I mean, yeah, you're intense, but that doesn't make you exhausting. It makes you good at your job. Anyone who can't handle that is probably not worth your time anyway. For a long moment, Lena just stared at him. Then she said, That might be the nicest thing you've ever said to me. Don't get used to it. I'm sure we'll be arguing about something Monday morning. Probably. But she was smiling for real now, and Ethan realized with a start that he'd never actually seen Lena smile before. Not at work, not ever. She should smile more often, he thought, then immediately pushed the thought away. Dangerous territory. They continued eating, falling into easier conversation. Lena asked about Mia, and Ethan found himself telling stories. The time his daughter tried to build a dinosaur habitat in the backyard. The epic battles over homework. The way she announced last month that she wanted to be a paleontologist and immediately started correcting everyone's pronunciation of dinosaur names. She sounds amazing, Lena said. She is. She's the best thing I ever did. Ethan finished his carbonara, which had been as good as it looked. Even on the days when I have no idea what I'm doing. You're doing better than you think. How would you know? Lena hesitated, then said quietly, Because I see her every weekend. Ethan's fork clattered against his plate. What? Mia, Lena said, not quite meeting his eyes. Your daughter. I'm her soccer coach, have been for 3 months now. The world tilted sideways. Ethan stared at her, his brain refusing to process the information. You're... what? The Weekend Recreational League. I volunteer on Saturdays. Coach Park? Oh. Oh no. Mia's soccer coach was Lena Park. All those Saturdays when he dropped Mia off at the field and headed to run errands rather than stick around to watch practice. All those times Mia had come home chattering about Coach Park and how cool she was, how she knew everything about soccer, how she was teaching them a new drill. All those times Ethan had half listened while making dinner, never thinking to ask for details beyond whether she'd had fun and remembered to drink enough water. You knew, he said slowly. You knew who I was this whole time. I knew Mia's last name was Cole. I didn't know if... Lena folded her napkin with precise movements. I suspected. She talks about her dad sometimes, and the pieces fit, but I wasn't sure until tonight. Why didn't you say something? At work? Because it wasn't relevant to work, and because... She looked up, meeting his eyes. Because you never came to her games. You dropped her off and left. Every single time. So I figured either you didn't know who I was, or you did, and you were avoiding me. Either way, it seemed better to keep it professional. Ethan felt heat creeping up his neck. I work Saturdays sometimes. When I can't, I have errands. I'm not judging you. Lena's voice was gentle. Single parent. I get it. You have a lot on your plate. But you're there every Saturday volunteering. It's just a few hours a week. Teaching 8-year-old soccer isn't easy. No, Lena agreed. But it's worth it. They're good kids. Mia especially. She's got real talent, good instincts on the field. Pride swelled in Ethan's chest, automatic and fierce. Yeah? Yeah. She listens, she tries hard, she encourages the other kids. Reminds me of someone. Lena paused. When she talks about you, she lights up. You're her hero, Cole. Something in Ethan's throat tightened. He took a drink of water to cover it. She talks about you too, he managed. Coach Park. She thinks you're amazing, says you're the best coach ever. She's biased. Maybe, but she's a pretty good judge of character. They looked at each other across the table, and something shifted. Some wall that had been between them, built from workplace conflicts and first impressions and assumptions, developed another crack. The waiter appeared again, ever attentive. How was everything? Good? You save room for dessert? We have tiramisu, panna cotta, gelato. Actually, Ethan said, checking his watch. We've been here about an hour. We should probably... Get dessert, Lena finished. 1 to split. Tiramisu. Ethan looked at her in surprise. She shrugged. We already committed to dinner. Might as well finish it properly. Excellent, the waiter beamed. I bring you our best tiramisu. And coffee, yes? Espresso? Sure, they said together. When the waiter left, Ethan leaned back in his chair, studying Lena. I thought you wanted to get out of here as fast as possible. I did, but Lena traced the rim of her water glass. This hasn't been as terrible as I expected. High praise. Don't let it go to your head. But she was smiling again. The tiramisu arrived, a perfect square of layered coffee-soaked cake and mascarpone cream, dusted with cocoa powder. 2 forks. 2 espresso cups. Ethan took a bite and nearly groaned. Okay, this is incredible. It's good, Lena agreed, which from her probably meant the same thing. They ate slowly, the urgency to leave dissipating with each bite. The restaurant had filled up while they were eating, the ambient noise of conversation and laughter creating a cocoon around their corner table. So, Ethan said, what do we tell Rachel and Diana? The truth, that it was a disaster. Was it though? Lena paused, fork halfway to her mouth. What? I mean, it started as a disaster, but right now, this is kind of nice, no? You're just saying that because of the tiramisu. The tiramisu helps, Ethan admitted, but I'm serious. We've been here for, he checked his watch again, 1 hour and 40 minutes. We passed the 1 hour mark 30 minutes ago, and neither of us left. Lena set down her fork carefully. That doesn't mean anything. Doesn't it? Ethan, he corrected. We're not at work. You can use my first name. Ethan, she said, and hearing his name in her voice did something strange to his chest. We can't. This isn't. I'm not saying we should date, Ethan said quickly, though part of him wondered if he was lying. I'm just saying maybe we could, I don't know, not hate each other? Actually talk sometimes? We've never hated each other. Could have fooled me. Lena was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Then she said, what if this makes work weird? Weirder than it already is? That's not funny. Come on, a little funny. Despite herself, Lena laughed. Actually laughed, not just smiled. It was a nice sound, warm and genuine and completely unexpected. Okay, she said, maybe a little funny. They finished the tiramisu and the espresso. The waiter brought the check and they fought briefly over who would pay before agreeing to split it. Ethan left cash, Lena put her card down, and they stood up from the table together. Outside, the October night had grown colder. Rain was starting to fall, light but steady, creating halos around the parking lot lights. Where are you parked? Ethan asked. Over there. Lena pointed to a small sedan 3 rows over. I'll walk you. That's not necessary. I know, I'm doing it anyway. They walked through the rain, Lena hugging her arms against the cold. When they reached her car, she pulled out her keys but didn't immediately unlock the door. So, she said. So, Ethan echoed. This was unexpected? Yeah. Lena looked up at him, rain dotting her hair. I should have said this earlier, but you're not what I thought you were. Same to you. I mean it. At work you're different, defensive, closed off. But tonight you were human? I was going to say kind. Lena shook her head. I'm not explaining this well. I misjudged you, and I'm sorry for that. Ethan felt something warm unfold in his chest. I misjudged you too. I thought you were just cold, impossible, but you're not. You're just careful and passionate and really good at what you do. Ethan, and Mia's right. You are an amazing coach. Lena blinked rapidly, and Ethan realized with shock that her eyes were wet, not from the rain. Thank you, she whispered. They stood there in the parking lot, rain falling around them, looking at each other like they were seeing each other for the first time. Ethan's phone buzzed. He ignored it. It buzzed again and again. With a sigh, he pulled it out. 3 texts from Rachel. Rachel. Well? How did it go? Rachel. Are you still there? It's been almost 2 hours. Rachel. Ethan James Cole. Answer me right now. He showed Lena the screen. She checked her own phone and laughed. Diana's doing the same thing. 5 texts, 2 missed calls. What should we tell them? Lena considered. The truth? Which is? That they were right. About the restaurant, at least. The food was good. Nothing else? Lena smiled, a secret kind of smile. Let them wonder. Before Ethan could respond, his phone rang. Rachel. He answered. I'm alive. The date happened. I'm coming to pick up Mia. And, his sister demanded, how was it? Do you like her? Are you seeing her again? Ethan, you have to tell me. Good night, Rachel. He hung up. Lena was laughing, one hand over her mouth. You just hung up on her. She deserved it. Did you know what she was planning? No, but knowing Diana, she had this whole thing mapped out weeks ago. Lena finally unlocked her car, opened the door, then she paused. Ethan? Yeah? I'll see you Monday? Yeah, Monday. And Saturday? At the soccer field? Something in his chest did a little flip. I'll be there. I promise. Lena smiled, really smiled, the kind that reached her eyes, and got into her car. Ethan watched her drive away, standing in the rain like an idiot, before finally heading to his own truck. His phone rang again. Rachel. This time he answered with, It was fine. Stop calling me. Fine? That's all I get? Ethan Cole, I deserve details. You'll get them when I'm ready to give them, which might be never. But you don't hate her, right? Please tell me you don't hate her. Ethan thought about Lena's smile, about the way she'd talked about his daughter with such obvious affection, about the fact that she'd stayed for tiramisu when she could have left after an hour. No, he said quietly. I don't hate her. I knew it! Rachel shouted so loud he had to hold the phone away from his ear. I knew you two would hit it off if you just gave it a chance. Diana and I are geniuses. You're meddling menaces. Same thing. So when are you seeing her again? I'm not. Ethan, good night, Rachel. He hung up again, smiling despite himself. The drive to his mom's house took 20 minutes. When he arrived, Mia was indeed still awake, sprawled on the living room floor drawing dinosaurs. She looked up when he walked in, her face lighting up. Dad, you're back. How was your date? Grandma said you went on a date. Ethan shot his mother a look. She shrugged innocently from her armchair. It was interesting, he said, kneeling down to look at Mia's drawing. Is that a Parasaurolophus? Yep, with accurate feather patterns. She scrambled up, throwing her arms around his neck. Did you have fun? Are you going to see her again? Is she nice? So many questions. Ethan hugged her back, breathing in the scent of kid shampoo and grass stains. Yeah, she's nice. Actually, you know her. Mia pulled back, eyes wide. I do? Coach Park. His daughter's jaw dropped. Coach Park? Your date was with Coach Park? Surprise! Dad, that's amazing. Coach Park is so cool. She knows everything about soccer, and she's really nice, and she let me be captain last week. And Mia grabbed his face between her small hands. You have to see her again. You have to. Promise me. Ethan laughed, pulling her hands down gently. I see her at work, Bug. We work together. That's not the same. You need to take her on another date. Buy her flowers. Girls like flowers. Where are you getting this stuff? TV, Mia said seriously, and Grandma. Thanks, Mom, Ethan said dryly. His mother smiled serenely. I have no idea what she's talking about. Liar. They gathered up Mia's things, her backpack, her soccer cleats, the 3 dinosaur books she'd brought for light reading. In the car, Mia chattered the whole way home about practice tomorrow, about how excited she was that her dad and coach knew each other, about how this was just like a movie. Ethan let her talk, only half listening, his mind back in that parking lot with rain falling and Lena Park smiling at him like he was someone worth smiling at. At home, he got Mia ready for bed, supervised toothbrushing, read 3 chapters of the dinosaur book she was obsessed with. When he finally tucked her in, she grabbed his hand. Dad? Yeah, Bug? Are you happy? The question caught him off guard. What do you mean? You seemed different tonight when you picked me up, lighter. Mia's eyes were serious, too serious for 8 years old. I just want you to be happy. Ethan's throat tightened. I am happy. I've got you, don't I? But you should have more than just me. There's nothing just about you, Mia Cole. You're my whole world. But maybe the world could be bigger? She yawned, fighting sleep. Maybe there's room for Coach Park, too. Go to sleep, Ethan said softly, kissing her forehead. Dream about dinosaurs. And soccer, she mumbled, already drifting off. And you being happy. Ethan stood in her doorway for a long time, watching her sleep, thinking about parking lots and tiramisu, and the way Lena's voice had sounded when she'd said his name. Maybe the world could be bigger, Mia had said. Maybe it could. He pulled out his phone, opened his messages to Rachel. Ethan, I'll think about it. That's all you get. Her response came immediately. Thinking is good. Thinking means maybe. I'll take it. Ethan smiled, shook his head, and went to bed. He dreamed about Saturday soccer games and brown eyes that saw more than he'd expected, and the possibility, terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure, that maybe, just maybe, his carefully controlled life was about to get complicated in the best possible way. Saturday morning arrived with the kind of crisp autumn sunshine that made everything feel possible. Ethan woke to the sound of Mia already up and moving around her room, which was unusual for a weekend. Normally, he had to coax her out of bed with promises of pancakes and cartoons. He padded down the hall in his pajama pants and found her door open, his daughter standing in front of her closet in serious contemplation. Bug, you okay? Mia spun around, already dressed in her soccer uniform. Dad, finally! I've been waiting for you to wake up forever. Ethan checked his watch, 6:45. Practice isn't until 9. I know, but I need time to get ready. This is important. She turned back to her closet, pulling out a hoodie, examining it critically, then tossing it on her bed. Do you think Coach Park likes the color blue? Or should I wear the red one? I think Coach Park doesn't care what color hoodie you wear to practice. But what if she does? Mia grabbed both hoodies, holding them up. Blue is calming, red is energetic. Which one sends the right message? Ethan leaned against the doorframe, trying not to smile. What message are you trying to send? That I'm a serious athlete who also has good fashion sense. She said this with complete sincerity. You're 8. 8-year-olds can have fashion sense, Dad. Don't be ageist. He had no idea where she learned half the words she used. Blue. Wear the blue one and come eat breakfast before you stress yourself out. Mia grabbed the blue hoodie triumphantly and followed him to the kitchen. While Ethan started making eggs, she climbed onto a bar stool and watched him with unusual intensity. So, she said casually, too casually, are you going to stay for practice today? Ethan cracked an egg into the pan. I was planning on it. Really? Her voice went up an octave. Like the whole practice? Not just drop off? The whole practice. Mia let out a squeal that probably violated several noise ordinances. Dad, this is the best day ever. You get to see Coach Park coach. She's so good, Dad. You're going to love watching her. She does this thing where she demonstrates the drills herself and she's really fast. And breathe, Ethan said, amused. I'm just watching practice, not proposing marriage. Mia's eyes went enormous. Are you going to propose marriage? What? No, Bug, we had one dinner. But Grandma said, when you know, you know. Grandma needs to stop filling your head with romantic nonsense. It's not nonsense if it's true. Mia accepted the plate of scrambled eggs he set in front of her. Emma's mom said her parents fell in love on their first date and got married 3 months later. And they've been happy for like 10 years. Emma's parents are the exception, not the rule. But you liked her, right? Coach Park? You said she was nice. Ethan poured himself coffee, stalling. The truth was he'd thought about Lena more than he wanted to admit since Friday night. About the way her professional mask had slipped to reveal someone vulnerable and funny and surprising. About the fact that she spent her Saturdays teaching kids soccer for free. About her smile in the parking lot rain. Yeah, he said finally, I liked her. Mia pumped her fist. I knew it. This is perfect. Now you can come to all my games and you'll see how awesome Coach Park is, and then you'll fall in love and we can all live together and, okay, slow down there, Bug. We're taking this one step at a time. Today's step is me watching practice. That's it. Fine, Mia said, but she was grinning so wide Ethan worried her face might stick that way. They finished breakfast, and Mia spent the next hour and a half doing what she claimed was preparing mentally for optimal performance, but looked a lot like rearranging her soccer gear 17 times and practicing her serious athlete face in the mirror. Ethan used the time to clean the kitchen, throw in a load of laundry, and absolutely not think about what he was going to say to Lena when he saw her. By 8:30, Mia was vibrating with impatience. "Dad, we should go. We don't want to be late. Practice is at 9. The field is 10 minutes away." "But what if there's traffic? It's Saturday morning in the suburbs. There's no traffic." "What if there's a parade?" "There's not going to be a parade." "You don't know that." Ethan gave in because arguing with an 8-year-old running on pure excitement was a losing battle. They climbed into his truck, Mia clutching her water bottle like it was the World Cup trophy, and headed to the soccer complex. The fields were already busy when they arrived, multiple games and practices happening simultaneously. Kids in different colored uniforms swarmed like coordinated chaos. Parents lined the sidelines with camp chairs and thermoses of coffee. The smell of fresh-cut grass mixed with early morning dew. Mia's team practiced on Field 3 at the far end of the complex. As they walked over, Ethan spotted Lena immediately. She was setting up small orange cones in a pattern, wearing black athletic pants and a gray coaching jacket, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked up as they approached, and for a moment their eyes met across the field. Ethan's heart did something complicated in his chest. "Coach Park!" Mia took off running, leaving Ethan to follow with her soccer bag. Lena's face transformed when she saw Mia, breaking into a genuine smile. "Morning, Mia. Ready to work hard today?" "Always. And look, my dad came. He's going to watch practice." Lena's gaze shifted to Ethan as he reached them. Something flickered in her expression. Surprise, maybe, or nervousness. "Mr. Cole, this is unexpected." "Ethan," he corrected, echoing Friday night. "And I promised I'd be here." "So you did." Lena's voice was carefully neutral, but her eyes were warm. "Well, you picked a good day. We're working on possession drills and small-sided games. I have no idea what that means, but I'm looking forward to it." "Dad doesn't know anything about soccer," Mia announced cheerfully. "He thought a midfielder was someone who stood in the middle and didn't move." "That was one time," Ethan protested, "and in my defense, the name is misleading." Lena's lips twitched. "I'll try to make it educational then, for both of you." Other kids started arriving, and Mia ran off to join them. Ethan retreated to the sideline where a handful of other parents had gathered, setting up chairs and chatting. He recognized a few faces from previous drop-offs, received a few curious looks as the dad who never stayed, and settled against the fence to watch. Lena gathered the team in a circle, and Ethan watched her transform into Coach Park. Her voice carried across the field, clear and authoritative but kind. She had the kids do warm-up laps, then dynamic stretches she demonstrated herself. She was patient when one boy couldn't get the movement right, showing him again slowly, encouraging him until he got it. "That's Lena Park?" a woman next to Ethan said. She was younger, athletic-looking, holding a travel mug of coffee. "From the warehouse?" Ethan turned. "You know Lena?" "Not personally, but my husband works there. Quality control, right? He says she's intense." "She's thorough," Ethan said, feeling oddly defensive. "That's a nice way of putting it." The woman laughed. "I'm Sarah, by the way, Emma's mom." "Ethan, Mia's dad." "I know, Mia talks about you constantly." Sarah smiled. "She also talks about Coach Park constantly. Didn't realize you two knew each other outside of soccer." "We work together." Small world. Sarah sipped her coffee, watching the field. "She's really good with the kids. Emma's had 3 coaches over the years, and Lena's by far the best. Patient, but pushes them to improve. Makes it fun while teaching real skills." Ethan watched Lena organize the kids into groups for a passing drill. She demonstrated the technique herself, controlling the ball with easy precision, passing it cleanly between cones. The kids watched with rapt attention. "Yeah," he said quietly. "She's something." Sarah gave him a knowing look but didn't comment. The practice unfolded with organized efficiency. Lena moved between groups, correcting form, offering encouragement, occasionally stopping everything to demonstrate a concept. She was completely in her element, and Ethan found himself fascinated by this version of her. At work, Lena was controlled and precise, always following protocols. Here, she was still precise, but there was joy in it. She laughed when one kid accidentally kicked the ball backward. She high-fived successful passes. She knelt in the grass to talk to a girl who was frustrated, speaking quietly until the kid nodded and tried again. Mia was thriving. Ethan could see it in the way she attacked every drill with fierce concentration, and how she encouraged her teammates, and the huge grin on her face every time Lena praised her effort. "Mia, good vision," Lena called as his daughter threaded a pass between two defenders during a small-sided game. "That's exactly what we practiced." Mia beamed so brightly, Ethan felt his chest constrict with love and pride. Halfway through practice, Lena called a water break. The kids scattered to the sideline, grabbing bottles and snacks from their parents. Mia ran over to Ethan, sweaty and ecstatic. "Did you see that pass? Did you see it?" "I saw it. That was incredible, Bug." "Coach Park said I have good field vision. That means I can see plays developing before they happen." Mia gulped water. "Isn't she amazing, Dad? Isn't she the best coach ever?" "She's very good," Ethan agreed. "You should tell her that. Coaches like positive feedback. It helps them know they're doing a good job." "Did Coach Park tell you that?" "No, I read it in a book about sports psychology." Mia said this like it was completely normal for an 8-year-old to be reading sports psychology books. "Go tell her, before break's over." "Mia, Dad, go." Ethan looked toward the center of the field where Lena was adjusting cones and checking her clipboard. Before he could talk himself out of it, he walked over. She looked up as he approached, surprise crossing her features. "Everything okay?" "Yeah, fine. I just wanted to say, you're really good at this." Lena blinked. "At coaching?" "At all of it. The drills, the encouragement, the way you explain things so they understand. Mia's having the time of her life." A flush crept into Lena's cheeks. "She makes it easy. She's got natural talent and she actually listens, which is rare." "Still, this isn't easy work. Wrangling 12 8-year-olds for 2 hours every Saturday, that's dedication." "It's just volunteering. It's more than that." Ethan held her gaze. "You're good with them. Patient, kind, different from how you are at work." Lena's expression shifted, became guarded. "Different how?" "Softer. Happier." He paused. "I like this version of you." For a moment, Lena just stared at him. Then she said quietly, "I like this version of you too." "What version?" "The one who shows up, the one who pays attention." Her voice was gentle. "Mia's mentioned that you're busy, she understands, but she lights up when she talks about you. Having you here today, it means something to her." The words hit harder than Ethan expected. "I should have been coming all along." "You're here now. That's what matters." They stood there in the middle of the soccer field, kids running around them, other parents watching from the sidelines, and Ethan felt the careful distance he'd been maintaining since Friday night start to crumble. "Lena." "Coach Park." One of the boys was waving frantically. "Tyler said soccer was invented in England, but I said it was China, and now we're arguing." Lena smiled apologetically at Ethan. "Duty calls. Stay for the scrimmage at the end?" "Wouldn't miss it." He walked back to the sideline, aware of Sarah's amused expression. "Just work colleagues, huh?" she said. "Shut up." Sarah laughed. "Emma's going to be thrilled. She's been hoping Coach Park would find someone nice." "Emma's 8. Why is she thinking about her coach's love life?" "Kids notice everything." Emma said Coach Park always looks a little sad when parents pick up their kids in pairs, like she's watching something she wants but doesn't have. Ethan glanced back at Lena, who was now explaining the history of soccer to an audience of invested 8-year-olds. He thought about her apartment, which he'd never seen but somehow knew would be neat and organized and probably a little lonely. He thought about her eating lunch alone at work, always professional, never joining the casual conversations in the break room. "She doesn't have to be lonely," he said quietly. "No," Sarah agreed. "She doesn't. But sometimes people don't know how to be anything else until someone shows them." The second half of practice was a scrimmage, and Ethan watched with growing investment as the kids played with surprising strategy and skill. Lena coached from the sideline, calling out instructions and encouragement. When Mia scored a goal, a beautiful shot that sailed past the goalkeeper's outstretched hands, she didn't celebrate immediately. Instead, she looked straight at Ethan, her face asking the question, "Did you see?" He gave her a thumbs up and she exploded into joy, her teammates piling on her in congratulations. "That's my girl," Ethan murmured, and felt his eyes sting with unexpected emotion. When practice ended, the kids gathered around Lena for final announcements. She reminded them about next week's schedule, handed out permission slips for a tournament, and then did something that made Ethan's throat tight. She went around the circle and said something specific and positive to each child, something they'd done well today, something to work on, something that made each kid feel seen and valued. When she got to Mia, she said, "Excellent field awareness today, and that goal was perfectly placed. Keep working on your weak foot, and you're going to be unstoppable." Mia practically glowed. The kids dispersed, running to their parents. Mia grabbed her bag and water bottle, then looked between Ethan and Lena with barely contained scheming in her eyes. "Coach Park, do you have plans for lunch?" "Mia," Ethan said warningly. "What? I'm just asking. It's lunchtime, and Coach Park probably hasn't eaten, and we're probably going to get pizza, and it would be rude not to invite her." "It's okay," Lena said quickly. "I have plans, but thank you for thinking of me." "What plans?" Mia asked with the bluntness only children could get away with. "Mia," Ethan repeated, mortified. Lena's lips quirked. "Very important plans involving my couch and a book I've been trying to finish for 3 weeks." "That's not plans, that's just existing," Mia pronounced. "You should come get pizza with us. Dad loves pizza. I love pizza. Everyone loves pizza." "Bug, Coach Park said she has plans." "Actually," Lena interrupted, and Ethan's heart stuttered. "Pizza sounds really good. If you're sure I'm not intruding?" "Yes!" Mia jumped up and down. "You're not intruding. Dad, she's not intruding, right?" Ethan looked at Lena, saw the uncertainty beneath her smile, the hope she was trying to hide. He thought about Friday night, about tiramisu and parking lot rain, and the feeling that something was beginning. "You're not intruding," he said. "We'd love to have you." Mia's celebration could probably be heard from space. They agreed on a pizza place near the soccer complex, and Ethan spent the drive there listening to Mia's detailed analysis of every moment of practice while trying not to think about the fact that he was about to have lunch with Lena Park. Again. Not because their families forced them, but because they chose it. The restaurant was one of those family-friendly places with checkered tablecloths and a salad bar and an entire wall of arcade games. Mia immediately spotted friends from her team in the arcade section and asked if she could join them. "Stay where I can see you," Ethan said, "and we're ordering in 10 minutes whether you're back or not." "Got it." Mia grabbed a handful of quarters from the change Ethan offered and disappeared into the chaos of flashing lights and electronic sounds, leaving Ethan and Lena alone at a booth. "She's got a lot of energy," Lena said, sliding into the seat across from him. "That's one way of putting it." Ethan picked up a menu he didn't need. "Sorry about the ambush. She's been enthusiastic about the idea of us since I told her about Friday night." "What exactly did you tell her?" "That we had dinner, that you were nice, that we worked together." He set down the menu. "She filled in the rest with her imagination and possibly several romance novels she's too young to be reading." Lena laughed. "She's 8. Where is she getting romance novels?" "I have no idea, but last week she told me that communication and mutual respect are the foundation of any healthy relationship." Her words, exactly like that. "Smart kid." "Terrifying kid." Ethan paused. "For what it's worth, I didn't tell her about the setup, the blind date part. I just said we got dinner together." "Probably wise. She seems like the type who would launch a full investigation." "Oh, she absolutely would. She'd have a conspiracy board with red string by tomorrow." They ordered when the waiter came by, a large pizza, half pepperoni for Mia, half vegetarian for Lena, and Ethan willing to eat whatever was left. When the waiter left, an awkward silence settled over the table. Ethan broke it. "So, that was weird, right? Seeing each other at practice?" "A little," Lena admitted. "Good weird, though, I think." "Definitely good weird." He watched her fidget with her napkin. "You really are great with the kids, Lena. I meant what I said. Thank you. They make it worthwhile." She looked toward the arcade where Mia was locked in intense competition on a basketball game. Mia, especially. She's got something special. You think so? I know so. The way she reads the field, anticipates plays, that's not something you can teach. She's got instincts. Lena turned back to him. But more than that, she's got heart. She doesn't just play for herself. She makes everyone around her better. Pride swelled in Ethan's chest. She gets that from her mom. The words were out before he could stop them, and he immediately regretted them. Bringing up Jennifer felt like dragging shadows into sunlight. But Lena just said gently, "Tell me about her. Your ex-wife? If you want to, I mean." Ethan took a drink of water, considering. He never talked about Jennifer. Not to his family, who had their own opinions. Not to his friends, who'd watched the marriage fall apart. Not to anyone, really, because what was there to say? But Lena was looking at him with those dark eyes, patient and open, and somehow the words came. Jennifer and I met young. Too young, probably. I was 23, she was 22. She was exciting, spontaneous, everything I wasn't. We got married fast, had Mia fast, and then... He paused. Then reality set in. Turns out marriage and a baby weren't the adventure she'd imagined. They were work. Hard, boring, exhausting work. That must have been difficult. The hard part wasn't that she struggled. I struggled too. New parents, no money, both working crazy hours. The hard part was that she resented it, resented me, resented Mia, though she'd never admit it. Ethan's jaw tightened. When Mia was 2, Jennifer sat me down and said she couldn't do it anymore, that she'd made a mistake, that she needed to find herself. So she left, moved to Portland, sends birthday cards and Christmas presents, calls maybe once a month. She's got a new life now. New partner, new job, new everything. And Mia has a mom who's basically a stranger. Lena was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "I'm sorry that happened to you both. But for what it's worth, I think Mia's better off with one parent who shows up than 2 parents where one is halfway out the door." You think? I know, my dad left when I was 6, walked out and never looked back. My mom raised me alone and she was enough, more than enough, because she was present, she cared, she showed up. Lena met his eyes. You show up, Ethan. Maybe not at soccer practice until today, but in all the ways that matter. Mia knows she's loved. That's everything. Something in Ethan's chest loosened. Thank you. I needed to hear that. Besides, Lena added with a small smile, you're here now, at practice, at lunch, fully present. That's what counts. The pizza arrived, and Mia materialized like she had a sixth sense for food, sliding into the booth next to Ethan with flushed cheeks and victory in her eyes. I beat Emma at skee-ball by 40 points. Emma's mom said you cheated, Ethan said, because Sarah had just walked past with a knowing smirk. I didn't cheat. I strategized. There's a difference. Mia grabbed a slice of pepperoni pizza. So what were you guys talking about? Work, Ethan said automatically. Liar. Mia took a huge bite. You had your feelings face on. My what? Your face when you're having feelings gets all soft and sad. She turned to Lena. Do you think my dad should have feelings more often? I think it would be healthy. Lena was clearly trying not to laugh. I think your dad should have whatever feelings he wants. But he doesn't want feelings. He avoids them. It's a problem. Mia, Ethan said firmly, eat your pizza and stop psychoanalyzing me. I'm just saying, emotional availability is important in relationships. Where are you learning this stuff? YouTube. Mia said this like it explained everything. Lena did laugh then, a real laugh that made her whole face light up. Ethan found himself staring, caught by how different she looked when she wasn't being careful, how beautiful she was when she let her guard down. They ate pizza and Mia dominated the conversation, asking Lena questions about soccer strategy and whether she ever played professionally and what her favorite position was. Lena answered everything patiently, even when Mia's questions veered into the absurd. If you had to play soccer against a team of bears, what formation would you use? I would forfeit and run away because bears are terrifying. But if you had to play them? Then I'd use a defensive formation and hope they get distracted by Honey. Mia considered this seriously. That's a good strategy. Watching them interact, Ethan felt something shift inside him, something that had been locked tight for 6 years, maybe longer. A door opening to possibility. After lunch, in the parking lot, Mia hugged Lena goodbye with the unself-conscious affection of a child who decided someone was worthy of love. See you next week, Coach Park. See you next week, Mia. Great work today. Mia ran to the truck, leaving Ethan and Lena standing in the autumn sunlight. Thank you for lunch, Lena said. I had a really nice time. Yeah, me too. Ethan hesitated. Listen, I know this is complicated. Work, Mia, all of it. But I'd like to do this again, if you want. Lena's smile was soft and a little scared. I'd like that too. Yeah? Yeah. She glanced toward the truck where Mia was watching them with unsubtle interest. But maybe we should take it slow. Figure out what this is before it gets messy? Slow works for me. Though looking at her, Ethan wasn't sure slow was possible. Wasn't sure he wanted it to be. They stood there another moment, neither quite ready to leave, before Mia honked the horn and yelled, Dad, I have homework. Subtle, Ethan muttered. She really is terrifying, Lena said fondly. You have no idea. Ethan drove home with Mia chattering about how perfect Coach Park was, about how she hoped they'd do this every week, about how she was going to tell Grandma that her dad was finally putting himself out there. He let her talk, his mind on Lena's smile and the feeling that his carefully controlled life was spinning into something new. That night, after Mia was asleep, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Unknown. This is Lena. Got your number from the team contact list. Hope that's okay? His heart jumped. Ethan. Totally okay. Borderline stalking, but okay. Lena. I prefer to call it resourceful research. Ethan. That's what all the best stalkers say. Lena. I'm blocking you now. Ethan. No, you're not. Lena? No, I'm not. Ethan smiled at his phone like a teenager. Ethan. Today was good. Lena. It was. Mia's wonderful. Ethan. She likes you. A lot. Lena. The feeling's mutual. Ethan. And what about her dad? A long pause. Ethan watched the 3 dots appear and disappear several times. Lena. I like him too, even though he drives me crazy at work. Ethan. The feeling's mutual. Lena. We're going to be terrible at this, aren't we? Ethan. Probably, but maybe that's okay. Lena. Maybe. Good night, Ethan. Ethan. Good night, Lena. He set his phone down, still smiling, and for the first time in years fell asleep thinking about possibility instead of past mistakes. Monday morning came with the harsh return to reality. Ethan walked into the warehouse at 6 a.m. for his shift, and the moment he stepped through the door, he knew something had changed. Marcus, one of his team leads, gave him a knowing look. So, heard you had an interesting weekend. Ethan's stomach dropped. What? Rachel? Your sister? She came by on Saturday to drop something off for her friend who works in accounting. Apparently she couldn't stop talking about how she set you up with someone from quality control. Oh no. Oh yes, Marcus grinned. Everyone knows, man. The whole warehouse. You and the Ice Queen. Don't call her that, Ethan said sharply. Marcus held up his hands. Hey, no disrespect. Just saying what everyone calls her. Though I guess if you're dating her, maybe she's not so icy after all. We're not dating. We had dinner once. Twice, actually. Sarah from shipping saw you at the pizza place yesterday, with Park and your daughter, looking very cozy. Ethan wanted to melt into the floor. This is none of anyone's business. In a warehouse? Everything's everyone's business. You know that. He did know that. The warehouse was like a small town. Everyone knew everything. Gossip spread faster than wildfire, and privacy was a luxury nobody had. But knowing it and experiencing it were 2 different things. Ethan made it to his office and closed the door, trying to prepare for the day ahead. He had inventory to manage, a team to coordinate, and now apparently an entire warehouse worth of speculation to ignore. At 7:30, his email pinged. From Lena Park. To Ethan Cole. Subject, Q3 temperature log discrepancies. Mr. Cole, I've noticed several instances in last week's logs where temperatures were recorded outside of acceptable parameters. Please review the attached documentation and provide corrective action plans by end of day. Lena Park, Quality Control Manager. Ethan stared at the email. The tone was pure professional Lena. Formal, direct, no nonsense. Like Friday night and Saturday afternoon had never happened. He should have expected this. They'd agreed to keep work separate, but seeing her name attached to what was essentially a criticism of his team stung differently now. He forced himself to open the attachment, review the data, and compose a response that was equally professional. At 9 a.m., he had to walk through quality control to check on a shipment. Lena was at her desk, focused on her computer screen, looking exactly like she always did. Hair pulled back, glasses on, tablet within arm's reach. "Morning," Ethan said as he passed. She looked up briefly. "Good morning, Mr. Cole." Mr. Cole, like they were strangers. Her desk phone rang and she answered it, dismissing him with the simple act of turning away. Ethan continued to the loading dock, feeling off balance and confused. This was what they'd agreed to, wasn't it? Professional at work. But somehow he'd expected, what? Smiles, warmth, some acknowledgement of the fact that 24 hours ago they'd been eating pizza and texting like people who actually liked each other? The day dragged on. Every interaction with Lena was painfully professional. She sent him 3 more emails, each one pointing out issues or requesting documentation. When they passed in the hallway, she nodded politely and kept walking. When they ended up in the same meeting about updated safety protocols, she addressed everyone except him. By lunch, Ethan was frustrated and hurt in ways he didn't want to examine. He found her in the break room, eating a salad at a corner table, reading something on her tablet. "Can we talk?" he said quietly, sliding into the chair across from her. Lena looked up, glanced around the break room, 3 other people, all studiously pretending not to watch, and said, "About what? About the fact that you're acting like I don't exist?" "I'm doing my job, Ethan." "It's more than that. You're being cold." "I'm being professional," she corrected, "which is what we agreed on." "Professional doesn't mean pretending we're strangers." Lena set down her fork carefully. "People are watching, talking. I heard at least 5 different versions of our hot date this morning, including one where we apparently got engaged over pasta." "So what? Let them talk." "Easy for you to say. You're a supervisor. You have authority, respect. I'm the woman from quality control who nobody likes because I enforce rules." Her voice was low but fierce. "If they think I'm involved with you, every decision I make will be questioned. Every write-up I issue will be seen as personal. I can't afford that." Ethan sat back, the hurt shifting to understanding. "I didn't think about it like that." "I know, you don't have to." Lena picked up her fork again, stabbed at her salad. "This was a mistake. I knew it would be complicated, but I didn't realize it would be like this." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe we should keep this simple. Work is work. Outside of work is outside of work, and we don't let them overlap." "Lena, I have to get back." She stood, gathering her things. "I'll send you the updated protocol documents by 3. She walked away, leaving Ethan alone at the table with the growing realization that this was going to be harder than he'd thought. That night, he texted her. "Ethan, I'm sorry about today. You were right. I wasn't thinking about how this affects you." The response took 20 minutes. "Lena, it's okay. I'm sorry too. I was cold. That wasn't fair." Ethan, "So what do we do?" Lena, "I don't know. I've never done this before." Ethan, "Done what?" Lena, "Liked someone I work with, wanted something complicated, risked anything that mattered." Ethan stared at that last message for a long time. Ethan, "It matters to you?" Lena, "Yeah, it does. That's the problem." Ethan, "Doesn't have to be a problem." Lena, "In my experience, when something matters, it usually becomes one." Ethan, "Maybe this time is different." Lena, "Maybe. Or maybe we're setting ourselves up for disaster." Ethan, "Only one way to find out." Another long pause. Lena, "Okay." Ethan, "Okay?" Lena, "Okay, we try." Carefully, slowly. And if it gets too complicated, we stop before it ruins everything. Ethan. Deal. See you Saturday? Lena. See you Saturday. The week crawled by with painful professionalism during work hours and tentative text conversations after. They learned things about each other in fragments. Lena loved old movies and spicy food. Ethan couldn't cook to save his life but made excellent pancakes. They both hated small talk but could debate warehouse efficiency protocols for hours. By Friday, the warehouse gossip had shifted to other scandals, and the tension between them had eased into something almost comfortable. Saturday brought rain, the kind that threatened to cancel practice but never quite committed. Ethan showed up anyway, Mia bouncing with her usual energy, and found Lena setting up under gray skies with determination in her eyes. We're really doing this in the rain? Ethan asked. Soccer is played in all weather, Lena said. Builds character. Builds pneumonia. Don't be dramatic. But she was smiling. Practice was muddy chaos, kids slipping and sliding and having the time of their lives. Mia scored 2 goals and came off the field covered in mud and grinning like she'd won the World Cup. After, when other parents had collected their children and left, Ethan helped Lena pack up cones while Mia played on the nearby swings. This is becoming a habit, Lena said, shoving orange cones into a mesh bag. What is? You helping, staying, being here. Is that a problem? No. She looked at him, rain dotting her face. It's nice. They finished packing in comfortable silence, then stood there in the rain like idiots, neither wanting to leave. Lena, do you want to get coffee? She said at the same time. They both stopped, laughed. Yes, Ethan said. I want to get coffee. There's a place near here. They have hot chocolate for Mia. Perfect. The coffee shop was warm and crowded, smelling of espresso and pastries. They found a table in the corner, Mia immediately distracted by the display case full of cookies. When she ran over to examine them more closely, Lena leaned across the table. I've been thinking, she said. Dangerous. I'm serious. Her hands wrapped around her coffee cup. Us, it's scary. But I don't want to run from it just because it's complicated. Yeah? Yeah. I've spent a long time playing it safe, being careful, not risking anything. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being alone because it's easier than being vulnerable. Ethan reached across the table, covered her hand with his. You don't have to be alone. I know. She turned her hand, laced her fingers with his. That's what scares me. Mia returned with a chocolate chip cookie the size of her head, saw their linked hands, and tried very badly to hide her delighted smile. Don't, Ethan warned. I'm not saying anything. Mia bit into her cookie. I'm just eating my cookie that you're buying because you're in a good mood because you're holding hands with Coach Park. Mia. Which is totally fine. I approve. I'm very supportive of this relationship development. Lena was biting her lip, trying not to laugh. You're both impossible, Ethan muttered, but he didn't let go of Lena's hand. They stayed until the coffee shop closed, talking and laughing and letting Mia tell increasingly elaborate stories about soccer practice. When they finally left, the rain had stopped, leaving everything clean and fresh. In the parking lot, Mia ran ahead to the truck, giving them a moment alone. This is really happening, isn't it? Lena said. Looks like it. We're going to screw it up. Probably. People at work are going to make it weird. Definitely. And your daughter is going to meddle constantly. Absolutely. Lena smiled. Okay then. Okay then, Ethan echoed and kissed her. It was soft and quick, just a brush of lips, but it felt like crossing a threshold. Like stepping into something new and terrifying and possibly wonderful. When they pulled apart, Mia was cheering from the truck window, and Ethan decided he didn't care who saw or what they said. For the first time in 6 years, he was choosing possibility over safety. And it felt exactly right. The kiss changed everything and nothing at the same time. Over the next 3 weeks, Ethan and Lena fell into a careful rhythm. Professional distance at work, stolen moments on weekends, text messages that stretched late into the night when Mia was asleep, and the world felt smaller, more intimate. They were good at keeping it quiet. Too good, maybe. At the warehouse, they maintained their usual dynamic, disagreeing about protocols and safety measures with the same intensity as before, except now Ethan knew that Lena's stubbornness came from a place of genuine care rather than inflexibility. She knew that his resistance to her suggestions stemmed from protective instinct toward his team, rather than dismissiveness of her expertise. Their arguments became almost performative, a dance they'd learned the steps to without realizing they were dancing. But outside of work, away from the prying eyes and eager gossip of the warehouse, they were discovering each other in pieces, small revelations that accumulated like interest in a savings account. Lena liked her coffee black and her mornings quiet. She had a collection of vintage soccer jerseys from teams around the world, each one with a story she'd tell if asked. She volunteered at an animal shelter on Sunday afternoons when she wasn't coaching, and she'd fostered 17 dogs over the past 4 years because she couldn't stand the thought of them being alone. Ethan was learning that the rigid, by-the-book woman he'd clashed with for 18 months was actually someone who cried at dog adoption videos and laughed at terrible puns, and had once driven 3 hours in a snowstorm to help a friend move because that's what you did for people you cared about. He told her things he'd never told anyone. About the night Jennifer left, when he'd sat in Mia's nursery holding their sleeping daughter and promised her he'd be enough. About the guilt he carried for working so much, for not being the Pinterest-perfect parent other dads seemed to be. About the fear that haunted him at 3 a.m., that he was screwing up his daughter in ways he wouldn't understand until it was too late to fix them. Lena listened without judgment, without trying to fix him, and somehow that made everything easier. They went on actual dates when Ethan's mom could watch Mia. Dinner at places nicer than Marcello's, though they both agreed nothing would top that first accidental night. A movie where they held hands in the dark like teenagers. A farmer's market on a Sunday morning where Lena bought vegetables with the intensity of someone preparing for agricultural warfare. "You're examining that tomato like it insulted your family," Ethan observed, watching her turn a perfectly normal tomato in her hands, checking for imperfections. "This is a $5 tomato. It should be perfect." "It's a tomato. It's an heirloom organic locally grown tomato, and I'm not paying $5 for substandard produce." Ethan bit back a smile. "You're very intense about vegetables." "I'm intense about everything. You should know this by now." "Oh, I know. I'm just continually amazed by the depths of your intensity." She'd put down the tomato and picked up another one, examining it with the same critical eye. "Are you making fun of me?" "Little bit." "I could leave you here, walk away and never speak to you again. But you won't." "No," she'd agreed, finally selecting a tomato that met her standards. "I won't, unfortunately for both of us." Those moments, casual and comfortable and real, felt like stolen treasure, like something precious he'd found by accident and was terrified of losing. But keeping it quiet meant keeping it separate from the rest of his life, and that was becoming harder to maintain. Mia knew, obviously. She'd known from that first kiss in the parking lot and had appointed herself their unofficial relationship cheerleader, asking pointed questions about when Coach Park was coming over for dinner and whether Dad had bought her flowers yet and why they were being so weird about just admitting you like each other. His mother knew too, though she'd figured it out on her own when Ethan had shown up to pick up Mia one evening with what she called his dopey in love face and refused to explain why he was in such a good mood. "It's that woman from work, isn't it?" she'd asked, cornering him in her kitchen while Mia gathered her things. "The one Rachel set you up with?" "Maybe." "Ethan James Cole. I raised you better than maybe." "Fine." "Yes. We're seeing each other, but it's new and we're keeping it quiet, so please don't make a big thing out of it." His mother had pulled him into a hug so tight he couldn't breathe. "I'm so happy for you, sweetheart. You deserve this." "We're just dating, Mom. It's not a marriage proposal." "Yet," she'd said with the confidence of a woman who'd been married for 43 years and thought she knew how love worked. The problem was, the more time Ethan spent with Lena, the more he could imagine his mother being right. He could imagine Sunday mornings with coffee and newspapers, Lena correcting his crossword answers. He could imagine Mia having someone else at her games, someone who understood soccer and actually knew what was happening on the field. He could imagine a future that looked different from the careful, controlled life he'd built. Bigger and messier and full of possibility, and that terrified him more than anything. It was mid-November when everything started to unravel. The warehouse had been dealing with increased demand for the holiday season, which meant longer hours, higher stress, and everyone stretched thin trying to keep up. Ethan's team was working overtime, pulling double shifts, and the fatigue was starting to show in small mistakes and frayed tempers. On a Tuesday morning, one of those small mistakes became a big problem. Ethan was in his office reviewing shipment schedules when his phone rang. Internal number, quality control. He answered. Cole, we need to talk. Lena's voice was clipped, professional. My office. Now. His stomach dropped. What's wrong? I'd rather discuss it in person. She hung up before he could respond. Ethan walked to quality control with growing dread. Whatever this was, it was serious enough that Lena couldn't even give him a heads up. When he reached her office, she was standing behind her desk, arms crossed, her face carefully blank. Close the door, she said. He did. Lena, what's going on? There was a shipment that went out yesterday. Refrigerated goods, temperature sensitive. According to the logs, temperatures were maintained within acceptable range the entire time. Okay, that's good, right? It would be, except I pulled the actual temperature data from the unit's internal monitor, and it tells a different story. She turned her tablet around, showing him a graph. The refrigeration unit failed for approximately 4 hours during transport. Temperatures exceeded safe limits. The entire shipment is compromised. Ethan stared at the data, his mind racing. But the manual logs were falsified. Someone recorded temperatures they didn't actually check, probably to save time. That's not possible. My team knows better than that. And yet it happened. Lena's voice was hard. This isn't just a quality control issue, Ethan. This is food safety. If that shipment gets distributed, people could get sick. This is exactly the kind of thing that put my grandmother in the hospital. He heard the emotion beneath her words, the fear and anger she was trying to keep professional. I'll find out who did it. I'll handle it. You'll handle it by firing whoever falsified those logs. I don't even know who it was yet. It came from your team, your shift, your responsibility. I know that, Ethan said, frustration rising, but I'm not firing someone without all the facts. The facts are clear. Someone on your team committed fraud to cover up a failure. That person needs to be terminated immediately. You don't get to make that call. Actually, I do. Safety violations of this magnitude require immediate action. I'm documenting this as a critical incident, and I'm recommending termination. Of course you are. The words came out bitter. Because everything's black and white with you, isn't it? Rules and protocols and no room for human error. Lena's eyes flashed. This isn't human error. This is deliberate falsification of safety records. If you can't see the difference, maybe you're not fit to be supervising people. The words landed like a punch. Ethan took a step back, feeling the careful distance between their professional and personal lives collapse completely. You don't mean that. Don't I? Lena's jaw was tight. You've been fighting me on safety measures for months, cutting corners, making excuses, and now someone on your team has committed actual fraud, and you're still trying to protect them. I'm trying to get the full story before I destroy someone's livelihood, and I'm trying to prevent people from getting poisoned. They were shouting now, all pretense of professionalism gone. Through the office window, Ethan could see other quality control staff pretending not to watch. He forced himself to take a breath. I need to investigate, talk to my team, find out what actually happened. Fine. You have until end of day, but that shipment gets recalled, and whoever falsified those logs gets fired. Non-negotiable. Lena. That's all, Mr. Cole. Close the door on your way out. She turned away, dismissing him, and Ethan left feeling like he'd been gutted. Back in his office, he pulled up the shipment records and cross-referenced them with his team's schedule. The delivery had gone out on Monday night, second shift. His team, but he hadn't been there. He'd left early for the first time in weeks because Lena had gotten tickets to a concert she thought he'd like. He called in his night supervisor, Marcus, who arrived looking nervous. What's going on, boss? The refrigerated shipment that went out Monday. Tell me about it. Marcus shifted his weight. Normal run. Everything went smooth. Temperature logs were falsified. Unit failed for 4 hours and nobody noticed. That's not possible. We checked those religiously. Except someone didn't check. They just wrote down numbers that looked right. Ethan pulled up those logs on his computer, turned the screen to show Marcus. Who was responsible for this shipment? Marcus leaned in, scanning the documentation. His face went pale. Tommy Rodriguez. But he would never get him in here. Now. 10 minutes later, Tommy Rodriguez stood in Ethan's office, a 23-year-old kid who'd been with the company for 8 months. He looked terrified. Am I in trouble? That depends. Ethan gestured to the chair. Sit down and tell me about Monday night's refrigerated shipment. Tommy sat, hands twisting in his lap. What about it? Did you check the temperatures? A pause. Too long. Yeah, every hour, like I'm supposed to. Tommy. I did. I checked them. Ethan pulled up the data from the unit's internal monitor, showed him the graph. The unit failed. 4 hours. And somehow you didn't notice? Tommy stared at the screen, and Ethan watched realization and panic flood his face. I don't understand. The gauge was reading fine. I checked it every time. What gauge? The external one. On the side of the unit. It said 34 degrees every time I looked. You're supposed to check the internal digital readout. I know, but the screen was broken. Has been for a week. I submitted a maintenance request, but nobody fixed it yet, so I was using the external gauge like Marcus told me to. Ethan's stomach sank. He turned to Marcus. You told him to use the external gauge? Marcus looked like he wanted to disappear. The digital screen was busted. I figured the external gauge was better than nothing. The external gauge measures ambient temperature, not internal temperature. It's completely unreliable for this purpose. I didn't know that, Tommy said, his voice cracking. I swear I didn't know. I thought I was doing it right. I checked every hour, wrote down what the gauge said. I didn't know it was wrong. Ethan rubbed his face, exhaustion and frustration warring with sympathy. This was exactly what Lena always warned about. People taking shortcuts without understanding the consequences. Supervisors making judgment calls that compromise safety because they were trying to keep things moving. Why didn't you tell me the screen was broken? I did. I sent you an email last Wednesday. You said you'd handle it. Ethan pulled up his email, searched for Tommy's name. There it was, buried under 17 messages from Lena about various quality control issues. A simple message. Temp screen on Unit 7 not working. Submitted maintenance ticket number 4782. And Ethan's response. Got it, thanks. He'd completely forgotten about it. Too busy, too distracted, too many things demanding his attention. And now there was a compromised shipment and a kid who thought he was about to lose his job. Okay, Ethan said quietly. Here's what's going to happen. Tommy, you're suspended pending investigation. With pay. Marcus, same. I need to dig into this and figure out exactly what went wrong. But I didn't mean to, Tommy started. I know. But the shipment's still compromised, and there are going to be consequences. I'll do what I can to make sure they're fair, but right now I need you both to go home while I sort this out. After they left, Ethan sat in his office staring at the email he'd dismissed as handled. He'd failed, not just as a supervisor, but as the person responsible for ensuring his team had the tools and knowledge they needed to do their jobs safely. Lena had been right to be angry. She'd been right about a lot of things. He picked up his phone and called her. She answered on the third ring. What? I found out what happened. Can we talk? I'm busy. Lena, please, 5 minutes. A long pause. Fine. My office. When he got there, she was standing by the window, arms crossed defensively. He closed the door and explained everything. The broken screen, the maintenance request he'd ignored, Tommy's honest mistake based on Marcus's bad guidance. Lena listened without interrupting, her expression unreadable. When he finished, she said, So it's your fault. Partially, yes. I should have followed up on the maintenance request. But Tommy didn't knowingly falsify anything. He made a mistake based on faulty equipment and inadequate training, which are both your responsibility to prevent. I know that. Do you? Lena turned to face him fully. Because from where I'm standing, this is exactly what I've been warning you about for 18 months. Shortcuts, assumptions, things falling through the cracks because everyone's too busy to do things right. You're right. That seemed to catch her off guard. What? You're right. I screwed up. I should have prioritized that maintenance request. I should have made sure my night supervisor understood the difference between external and internal temperature readings. I should have been there Monday night instead of leaving early. You left early because of me, Lena said quietly. That's not your fault, isn't it? She sank into her desk chair, suddenly looking exhausted. This is exactly what I was afraid of. Us mixing personal and professional and everything getting messy. This isn't about us. This is about me not doing my job properly. It's about both. Lena pulled off her glasses, rubbed her eyes. I recommended termination before I had all the facts because I was angry, because this hit too close to home and I reacted emotionally instead of professionally. That's not like me. You were protecting people. That's your job. My job is to make fair, evidence-based decisions, not to go nuclear the second something scares me. She put her glasses back on, met his eyes. I'm going to withdraw the termination recommendation for Tommy. He'll get a formal warning and mandatory retraining, but he doesn't deserve to lose his job over an honest mistake. Thank you. Don't thank me. I'm still writing you up. This falls under supervisory negligence, and there are going to be consequences. Ethan nodded. He'd expected as much. What about us? What about us? Are we okay? Lena was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. This is exactly what I was worried about. Work and personal bleeding together, making it impossible to be objective. So what do we do? I need to think. She turned back to her computer, effectively dismissing him. I'll send you the formal documentation by end of day. Ethan wanted to argue, to push, to demand they talk about this properly, but the set of Lena's shoulders told him it wouldn't help. So he left, feeling like something precious was slipping through his fingers. The write-up came through at 4:30 p.m. Formal, detailed, entirely professional. It outlined his failure to follow up on critical maintenance requests, the inadequate training of his supervisory staff, and the systemic issues that had allowed a compromised shipment to nearly reach customers. It was fair. It was accurate. And it would go in his permanent file, potentially affecting future promotions and opportunities. Ethan signed it without complaint because he deserved every word. That night, Mia noticed immediately that something was wrong. You're doing your sad face, she said over dinner, pushing chicken around her plate. I'm fine, Bug. You're lying. You get this little wrinkle between your eyebrows when you lie. She pointed at his forehead. Right there, see? When did you become so observant? I've always been observant. You just don't usually give me this much material to work with. She set down her fork. Did you and Coach Park have a fight? It's complicated. That's what adults say when the answer is yes, but they don't want to admit it. Mia's eyes were serious, too knowing for 8 years old. Are you going to break up? I don't know, maybe. That would be stupid. Mia, I'm serious, Dad. Coach Park is great. She makes you happy. You make her happy. Breaking up because something got hard would be really stupid. Sometimes things are more complicated than just being happy together. Why? Mia asked with the blunt simplicity of a child who hadn't learned yet that life was full of impossible contradictions. If you like each other and you're happy, why does anything else matter? Ethan didn't have a good answer for that. Over the next week, he and Lena barely spoke. At work, they communicated through email and carefully worded memos. She stopped coming to his office. He stopped walking past quality control. They existed in separate orbits, professional and distant and miserable. On Thursday, Rachel called. Diana says Lena's been crying. Ethan closed his eyes. Rachel, what did you do? Why do you assume I did something? Because you're my brother and I love you, but you're also emotionally constipated and terrible at relationships. Thanks for the vote of confidence. I'm serious, E. Diana says Lena's a mess. Won't talk about it. Just keep saying it's complicated. And you sound like someone kicked your dog, so what happened? Ethan told her. The shipment, the fight, the write-up. The distance that had opened between them like a chasm. Rachel listened, then said, You're both idiots. That's helpful. You had a work conflict, it happens. People in relationships disagree about professional stuff all the time. The difference is whether you let it destroy everything or whether you talk about it like adults. She won't talk to me. Have you actually tried? Like, really tried? Or did you just accept her pulling away because it's easier than fighting for something? The question hit too close to home. Ethan thought about Jennifer, about how he'd let her drift away rather than confronting the problems in their marriage, about how he'd spent 6 years building walls instead of bridges because walls were safer. I don't know how to fix this, he admitted. Then figure it out. Because from what Diana tells me, Lena's spent her whole life pushing people away before they can hurt her, and you're about to prove her right by giving up without a fight. After Rachel hung up, Ethan sat in his truck outside the warehouse, watching the evening shift arrive. He thought about Lena in the parking lot rain, saying she was tired of playing it safe, about Mia asking why happiness wasn't enough, about the fact that he'd been given a second chance at something real, and he was letting it slip away because things got difficult. He pulled out his phone and texted Lena. Ethan, can we please talk? Not about work, about us. The response came 20 minutes later. Lena, I don't know what to say. Ethan, then just listen, please. Give me a chance to say what I should have said a week ago. Lena, when? Ethan, tomorrow night after practice? Lena, okay. That Saturday, Ethan showed up to soccer practice with his heart in his throat. The day was cold and overcast, threatening snow that hadn't yet arrived. Mia was nervous too, he could tell, asking questions about whether Coach Park was mad at him, whether everything was going to be okay. I hope so, Bug. You should bring her flowers. Girls like flowers. Where are you getting this advice? TV, and also Grandma keeps saying it every time I talk to her. Remind me to have a conversation with your grandmother about boundaries. Practice was torture. Ethan watched Lena coach, saw the way she smiled at the kids but looked tired underneath, noticed how she avoided looking in his direction. When practice ended and the other parents collected their children, Mia gave him a significant look. I'm going to hang out with Emma for a bit. Her mom said it's okay. You should talk to Coach Park. Did you plan this? Maybe. Good luck, Dad. Don't mess it up. She ran off before he could respond, leaving Ethan alone with Lena on an empty soccer field. They packed up the equipment in silence, loading cones and balls into her car. When everything was stowed away, Lena finally looked at him. So, talk. Ethan took a breath. I'm sorry for the shipment, for not taking your concerns seriously enough. For every time I've dismissed your warnings as you being too rigid when you were actually being right. Ethan, let me finish. Please. He stepped closer. I've spent 6 years being careful, not risking anything, not letting anyone close enough to hurt me. And then you showed up, first at work where you drove me crazy, then at that restaurant where I realized you were more than I thought, then in my daughter's life where you made her happier than I've seen her in years. And I got scared. Scared of what? Of caring too much, of needing you, of building something real and then watching it fall apart because I'm not good enough at this. His voice cracked. When we fought, when you pulled away, my first instinct was to let you go, to protect myself. But my daughter asked me why happiness wasn't enough, and I didn't have a good answer. Lena's eyes were wet. I got scared too. I always do. Every time something starts to matter, I find a reason to destroy it before it can destroy me. That fight at work, I used it as an excuse to push you away because it was easier than admitting how much I was starting to depend on you being there. So we're both cowards. Seems like it. She smiled through tears. What do we do about that? We could be brave instead, together. That sounds terrifying. Yeah, Ethan agreed, closing the distance between them. But maybe that's okay. Maybe the scary stuff is worth it if it means not being alone. Lena reached up, touching his face with cold fingers. I don't want to be alone anymore. Neither do I. They kissed in the middle of the empty soccer field, and it felt like coming home. Like finding something he hadn't known he was looking for. When they pulled apart, Lena said, We're going to screw this up sometimes. Have fights. Disagree. Make each other crazy. Absolutely. But we'll figure it out? Yeah, we'll figure it out. They stood there in the cold, holding each other, and Ethan felt something shift. The fear that had been driving him for 6 years didn't disappear, but it got smaller, more manageable. Because he wasn't carrying it alone anymore. From across the field, he heard Mia's voice. Finally, I thought you guys would never make up. They turned to find his daughter standing with Emma and Sarah, all three of them watching with undisguised interest. How long have you been there? Ethan called. Long enough? Did you apologize properly? Did you tell her how you feel? Mia, you're supposed to be hanging out with Emma. We were. And then we came back because Emma's mom said you two needed supervision to make sure you didn't mess it up. Sarah waved, completely unapologetic. Lena was laughing, really laughing, and the sound was the best thing Ethan had heard all week. Your daughter's a menace. Tell me about it. They walked hand in hand toward the kids, toward the complicated, messy reality of building something real. It wouldn't be easy. Work would still be work, with all its conflicts and challenges. They'd still disagree, still drive each other crazy sometimes. But for the first time, Ethan believed it might be worth it. That night, after he dropped off Mia at his mother's house for a sleepover she'd mysteriously arranged, Ethan and Lena went back to Marcello's. Same restaurant, same table, same waiter who greeted them like old friends. Ah, the lovely couple returns. And this time, you look happy to see each other, yes? Yes, they said together, and it felt like a promise. Over pasta and wine, they talked about the hard stuff. How to navigate work conflicts without letting them bleed into their relationship. How to maintain professional boundaries while being honest about their personal connection. How to build something lasting when both of them had spent so long protecting themselves from exactly this kind of vulnerability. We should tell people, Lena said, twirling fettuccine on her fork. At work, I mean. Stop hiding. You sure? You were worried about how it would affect your credibility. I was. I am. But hiding feels worse, like we're ashamed, which we're not. She met his eyes. I'd rather face the gossip and judgment than keep pretending you're just a colleague who annoys me. I do annoy you, though. Constantly, but I'm choosing to find that endearing instead of infuriating. How generous. They smiled at each other across the table, and Ethan felt that sense of rightness again, like pieces clicking into place. What about Mia? Lena asked. She knows we're dating, but if this gets serious, it is serious. I mean really serious. Living together, future planning, all of that. That affects her too. She adores you. I think she'd be thrilled. But I've never been a parent. I don't know how to do the step-parent thing. What if I'm terrible at it? Ethan reached across the table, took her hand. You coach 12 8-year-olds every Saturday and they all worship you. You already know how to connect with kids. Mia's no different. Mia's your daughter. That's completely different. Yeah, it is. It's better. Because she already loves you, and you already care about her. Everything else we figure out as we go. Lena squeezed his hand. You make it sound simple. It's not, but it's not impossible either. They finished dinner and drove to Lena's apartment, a neat one-bedroom in a complex near the warehouse. Inside was exactly what Ethan expected. Organized, clean, decorated with soccer memorabilia and vintage movie posters, photos of her with friends, with the kids she coached, with various foster dogs over the years. You really do foster a lot, he said, examining a photo wall dedicated to dogs. 17 so far, 18 if you count the one I'm getting next month. You have room for a dog in here? I make room. They need someone. She stood next to him, looking at the photos. I've never been good at letting things go once I care about them. Dogs, kids on my soccer team, workplace safety protocols that everyone else thinks are excessive. Stubborn quality control managers who drive their supervisors crazy? Those too. They ended up on her couch, talking until after midnight about everything and nothing, about her childhood in Seattle, about his brief stint trying to be a musician before Mia was born, about dreams they'd abandoned and hopes they still carried. When Ethan finally left, walking to his truck in the December cold, he felt lighter than he had in years, like he'd been carrying weight he didn't realize was there until it was gone. His phone buzzed with a text from Lena. Lena, thank you for not giving up on us. Ethan, thank you for being worth fighting for. Lena, smooth talker. Ethan, I have my moments. Lena, see you Monday? Ethan, see you Monday. But Monday brought complications they hadn't anticipated. Ethan arrived at the warehouse to find the parking lot filled with more cars than usual for a Monday morning. Inside, there was a buzz of activity that felt wrong, urgent. He found Marcus in the break room looking stressed. What's going on? Corporate's here. Unannounced audit. They're going through everything. Inventory, safety records, personnel files. Started at 6 a.m. Ethan's stomach dropped. What triggered this? No idea, but they've got quality control in meetings, and I heard your name mentioned. He headed straight to his office and found a message waiting. Report to conference room B immediately. The conference room held 3 people he didn't recognize, corporate auditors based on their suits and clipboards. And Lena, sitting stiffly in a chair against the wall, her face carefully blank. Mr. Cole, thank you for joining us. The lead auditor, a severe woman in her 50s, gestured to a chair. We have questions about a recent quality control incident involving a compromised shipment. They spent 2 hours dissecting every detail of the refrigerated shipment failure, every email, every maintenance request, every decision that had led to the mistake. They questioned his leadership, his training protocols, his attention to detail. They asked about his relationship with quality control. And Ethan watched Lena's face remain professionally neutral, even as he knew she was dying inside. When they finally dismissed him, the lead auditor said, "We'll have our findings by end of week. Don't leave town." Outside the conference room, Ethan caught up with Lena. "Are you okay?" "Not here." She glanced around at curious coworkers. "My office. 5 minutes." When he got there, she closed the door and leaned against it, exhausted. "They know about us." "What?" "They know we're dating. Someone told them. And now they're investigating whether our relationship compromised professional judgment in handling the shipment incident." Ethan felt cold. Who would tell them? Could be anyone. The whole warehouse knows, apparently. It just took one person calling the ethics hotline. Lena pushed off from the door, started pacing. "They're looking at the write-up I gave you, questioning whether I was too harsh or too lenient. Examining every interaction we've had for the past month. If they determine there was any impropriety, we're both in serious trouble." There wasn't any impropriety. We handled it by the book. Except for the part where I was emotionally compromised when I made my initial recommendation. And the part where you left early that night to be with me, which contributed to the problem. She stopped pacing, looked at him with fear in her eyes. "This could end both our careers, Ethan." "Then we tell them the truth. That we're dating, that we've been careful to maintain professional boundaries, that the incident was handled appropriately despite our relationship. And if they don't believe us, then we deal with it, together." Lena shook her head. "You keep saying that, together, but what if together gets us both fired?" "It won't. You don't know that." Her voice rose. "You can't promise that any more than you could promise the shipment situation wouldn't blow up in our faces. Because sometimes, despite our best intentions, things fall apart anyway." She was spiraling. He could see it, fear taking over, making her want to run. He'd seen it before, that night they fought. The instinct to destroy something before it could destroy her. "Lena, don't do this." "Do what?" "Push me away because you're scared." "I'm being realistic." "You're being a coward." The words came out harsher than he intended, but he was tired of dancing around this. "Every time things get hard, you look for an exit. You did it after our first fight, and you're doing it now. But I'm not letting you run this time." "You're not letting me." Her eyes flashed. "You don't get to decide." "I'm not deciding anything. I'm just refusing to pretend this is impossible when it's not. Yeah, we might face consequences. Yeah, this audit might cause problems. But we didn't do anything wrong, and I'm not throwing away what we have because someone decided to make trouble." Lena stared at him, breathing hard. "What if I can't do this? What if I'm not brave enough?" "Then I'll be brave enough for both of us until you are." For a long moment, they just looked at each other. Then Lena crossed the room and wrapped her arms around him, holding on like he was the only thing keeping her anchored. "I'm terrified," she whispered against his chest. "Me too. But we're going to get through this." "Promise?" "Promise." They stood there in her office, holding each other, while somewhere in the building, corporate auditors dug through their professional lives looking for evidence of wrongdoing. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't easy. But it was real, and for Ethan, that was enough. The week dragged on with agonizing slowness. The auditors interviewed everyone, examined every document, created an atmosphere of tension and suspicion that permeated the entire warehouse. Ethan and Lena maintained careful distance at work, communicating only when necessary, hyper-aware of how everything looked. By Friday, Ethan was exhausted and anxious, jumping every time his phone rang. The call came at 3 p.m. "Mr. Cole, please report to Human Resources immediately." This was it. He walked to HR on legs that felt like lead, found the same conference room, the same auditors. Lena was already there, sitting ramrod straight, her face pale. The lead auditor didn't waste time. "We've completed our investigation into the quality control incident and the alleged conflict of interest arising from your personal relationship. Here are our findings." She slid a report across the table. Ethan forced himself to read it, his heart pounding so hard he could barely focus on the words. "While we have concerns about the optics of a romantic relationship between a shift supervisor and quality control manager, we find no evidence that this relationship materially affected professional judgment in this case. The shipment failure was the result of equipment malfunction and inadequate follow-up on maintenance requests, not favoritism or compromised oversight." Ms. Park's initial recommendation, while harsh, was within her authority to make based on available information at the time. Her subsequent revision of that recommendation was appropriate given new evidence. Ethan felt dizzy with relief. "However," the auditor continued, "we are implementing new policies regarding workplace relationships between employees in positions with potential conflicts of interest. Going forward, such relationships must be disclosed to HR within 2 weeks of becoming romantic in nature. Failure to disclose will result in disciplinary action up to and including termination." "We'll disclose immediately," Lena said quietly. "Already done. We filed the paperwork this morning." The auditor's expression softened slightly. "For what it's worth, everyone we interviewed spoke highly of both of you. Your teams trust you, your colleagues respect you. One incident doesn't erase that. But you need to be more careful going forward about maintaining clear boundaries." "We understand," Ethan said. They were dismissed with warnings and relief in equal measure. In the hallway, Lena sagged against the wall. "We made it." "Yeah, we did. I thought for sure we were done. Have a little faith." Ethan pulled her into a hug, not caring who saw. "We told you we'd figure it out." She laughed shakily. "You're unbearably optimistic sometimes. Someone has to balance out your catastrophizing." "I don't catastrophize." "Lena, you were ready to quit and move to another state." "I was not." "You weren't? Okay, maybe I looked at job postings in Oregon, but only briefly." Ethan kissed her, there in the hallway, in full view of anyone who walked past. When they broke apart, she was smiling through tears. "I love you," he said, the words surprising them both. "I know it's fast and probably crazy, but I love you, and I need you to know that before something else tries to tear us apart." Lena touched his face, her eyes soft. "I love you too, even though you drive me absolutely insane. Especially because I drive you insane." "Yeah," she agreed, "especially because of that." They stood there in the warehouse hallway, two people who'd fought their way through misunderstandings and fear and corporate audits to find something real. It wasn't perfect. It wouldn't be easy. But it was theirs, and that made all the difference. That evening, Ethan picked up Mia from his mother's house with a lightness in his chest he hadn't felt in weeks. When his daughter came bounding out the front door, she took one look at his face and grinned. "You fixed it! I can tell by your smile." "How do you know so much about reading faces?" "I'm very emotionally intelligent," Mia said seriously, climbing into the truck. "Grandma says it's a gift." "Grandma says a lot of things." "Is Coach Park your girlfriend now? Like, officially?" Ethan pulled out of the driveway, trying to keep his voice casual. "Yeah, Bug, she is. How do you feel about that?" "I feel like it's about time. I was starting to think you guys would just keep being weird forever." Mia buckled her seatbelt with the efficiency of someone who'd been doing it for years. "Can she come to dinner tomorrow? I want to tell her about the science project I'm doing on plate tectonics. I'm sure she'd love that." "And Dad?" Mia's voice went quieter, more serious. "I'm really happy. That you're happy, I mean. You've been sad for a long time. I noticed even when you tried to hide it." Ethan's throat tightened. Sometimes his daughter's perceptiveness was overwhelming. "I wasn't trying to be sad around you." I know, but you were anyway, and now you're not. So that's good. She turned up the radio and started singing along to some pop song he didn't recognize, leaving Ethan to process the revelation that his 8-year-old had been carrying the weight of his unhappiness without him realizing it. He thought he was protecting her by keeping his emotions in check, by maintaining normalcy, by never letting her see him struggle. But she'd seen it anyway, because children always did. He made a silent promise to himself to be more honest with her, about his feelings, about his life, about the fact that adults didn't have all the answers, and sometimes they needed just as much reassurance as kids did. That night, after Mia was in bed, Lena came over. It was the first time she'd been to his house, and Ethan felt weirdly nervous as he opened the door to let her in. "It's small," he said immediately, because apparently his brain had decided to lead with an apology. "And there are toys everywhere, and I didn't have time to clean properly." "Ethan," Lena stepped inside, looking around with genuine interest. "It's perfect. It's lived in. It's a home." The living room was cluttered with evidence of their life. Mia's backpack by the couch, drawings taped to the walls, a stack of library books about dinosaurs on the coffee table, photos everywhere of Mia at different ages, Mia with his mom, Mia with her soccer team, a shrine to his daughter's existence. Lena picked up one of the photos, a candid shot of Ethan and Mia at a park, both of them laughing at something off camera. When was this? 2 summers ago. She'd just learned to pump the swing by herself and was so proud she made me watch her for 45 minutes straight. "You look happy here." "I am happy with her. I've always been happy with her." He moved to stand beside Lena, looking at the photo. "But there was this underlying loneliness I didn't realize I was carrying until I met you, or re-met you, I guess, at that restaurant." Lena set down the photo and turned to him. "I spent all day thinking about what almost happened, how close we came to losing this because we were both scared. But we didn't lose it." "No, but we could have. And that terrifies me, Ethan, because I'm not used to wanting something this much. I don't know how to do it without waiting for it to fall apart." Ethan pulled her close, resting his chin on top of her head. "So we learn together. We mess up, we figure it out, we keep trying. That's all anyone does." They stood in his living room holding each other, and Ethan felt the rightness of it settling into his bones. This woman, in his space, in his life, accepting all the messy, complicated reality of who he was. "Stay," he said quietly. "Tonight, I'll sleep on the couch. You can have my bed. I just want you here." Lena pulled back to look at him. "What about Mia?" "She knows we're together, and she likes you more than she likes most people, which is saying something because she's very particular about her people." "Okay," Lena agreed, "but I'm not taking your bed. We're adults. We can share." They did share, though nothing happened beyond falling asleep wrapped around each other, exhausted from the emotional roller coaster of the past 2 weeks. Ethan woke up at 6 a.m. to find Lena already awake, watching him with soft eyes. "Morning," he mumbled. "You snore." "I do not." "You absolutely do, like a chainsaw cutting through concrete." "That's not even physically possible." And yet, she smiled, tracing a finger along his jaw. "I didn't mind." They were interrupted by Mia bursting through the door, then stopping dead when she saw Lena in her father's bed. "Oh, Coach Park, you're here!" She climbed onto the bed without hesitation, inserting herself between them. "Did you have a sleepover? Are we having breakfast together? Can we make pancakes? Dad makes really good pancakes. It's basically his only cooking skill." "I can cook other things. You made spaghetti last week and burned the noodles. I didn't know it was possible to burn boiling water, but you managed it." Lena was laughing and Mia was grinning, and Ethan realized this was what he'd been missing. This easy domesticity, this feeling of family that was more than just him and his daughter against the world. They made pancakes together, Mia narrating every step like she was hosting a cooking show, Lena proving to be surprisingly competent in the kitchen. After breakfast, Lena had to leave for a shift at the animal shelter, but she promised to come back for dinner. "Bring the new foster dog," Mia demanded. "I want to meet it." "Her, and she's a handful. Are you sure?" "I'm great with dogs. Dad, tell her I'm great with dogs." Ethan held up his hands. "You're bringing this chaos on yourself. Don't say I didn't warn you." That afternoon, Lena returned with a scruffy terrier mix who immediately tried to eat one of Mia's dinosaur toys. The next 2 hours were pandemonium. Mia running around the backyard with the dog, Lena and Ethan watching from the porch, both of them laughing at the pure joy on his daughter's face. "She's lobbying for a dog," Ethan said. "Has been for 2 years. I keep saying we're too busy." "Are you? Too busy?" "Probably not. I think I'm just scared of one more thing to be responsible for." Lena leaned against his shoulder. "You know you're already responsible for an entire shift of warehouse workers, right? A dog is probably less work than Marcus." "Marcus doesn't need to be walked 3 times a day." "True, but he also doesn't give unconditional love." Ethan looked at Mia, who was now teaching the dog to sit using cheese cubes as motivation. "You think we should get a dog?" "I think you should do whatever makes your daughter smile like that." By the time Lena left that evening, taking the terrier with her, Mia was already planning the specifications for their future dog. Size, breed, name options, she had a full presentation ready. "Can we go to the shelter next weekend just to look?" "Just to look," Ethan agreed, knowing full well they'd be coming home with a dog. The weeks that followed fell into a rhythm that felt both new and comfortable. Lena started spending more time at Ethan's house, bringing work papers and her laptop, grading plays from soccer practice while Ethan helped Mia with homework. They had dinner together most nights when schedules allowed, trading off cooking duties, though Ethan quickly learned that Lena was infinitely better at it than he was. At work, they maintained professional boundaries, but everyone knew. The gossip had shifted from scandalous speculation to benign interest. People got used to seeing them together, stopped commenting, moved on to other drama. The warehouse always had fresh drama. On a cold January morning, 3 months after the audit, Ethan was in his office reviewing schedules when his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered cautiously. "Cole?" "Mr. Cole, this is Janet Reeves from Regional Management. Do you have a moment?" His stomach tightened. Regional management only called when something was very good or very bad. "Of course. I'm calling regarding a position that's opening up. District Operations Manager, overseeing 4 warehouse locations in the region. It's a significant promotion, more responsibility, better compensation, leadership development opportunities. Your name came up in our succession planning discussions." Ethan's mind went blank. "I'm sorry, what?" "We'd like you to interview for the position. It would mean some travel, possibly relocation depending on which facility becomes your home base, but it's the kind of opportunity that could really advance your career." "Relocation?" The word stuck in his throat. "Potentially. The main office is 2 hours north, but we have facilities in 3 other cities as well. We'd work with you to find the best fit." Janet's voice was warm but professional. "I know it's a lot to consider. Take some time, discuss it with your family. But we need an answer by end of next week if you're interested in interviewing." After she hung up, Ethan sat staring at his phone. A promotion. A real career advancement, the kind he'd stopped hoping for when he became a single parent focused on stability over ambition. It was everything he should want. Better pay, more opportunities, a chance to do something bigger than managing one shift in one warehouse. But it meant potentially uprooting Mia, leaving the life they'd built. Leaving Lena, who was finally part of that life in ways that mattered. He didn't tell her right away. Not that night at dinner, not during the weekend soccer practice, not on their date night at a new restaurant downtown. He carried it like a weight, trying to figure out what he wanted before involving anyone else. On Tuesday, his mother cornered him when he dropped off Mia for the evening. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong." "Ethan James, you've been twitchy for 3 days. What's going on?" He told her about the call, about the promotion, about the potential relocation. His mother listened, then said, "What did Lena say?" "I haven't told her yet." "Why not?" "Because I don't know what I want. And I don't want to ask her to make decisions about our relationship when we've only been together a few months." "So you're going to make those decisions without her input? That's healthy." "That's not..." Ethan rubbed his face. "What if I tell her and she thinks I'm asking her to give up her job and follow me? That's not fair to put on her." "And what if you turn it down without talking to her and she finds out later? How is that fair?" His mother had a point. She usually did. That night, after Mia was in bed at his mother's house, Ethan called Lena. "Can you come over? We need to talk." That's never a good way to start a conversation, she said, but he could hear her already grabbing her keys. She arrived 20 minutes later, concern written across her face. What happened? Is Mia okay? Are you okay? Everyone's fine. He led her to the couch, trying to organize his thoughts. I got a call from regional management. They want to interview me for a district operations manager position. Lena's face lit up. Ethan, that's amazing. That's exactly the kind of opportunity you deserve. It might require relocation. The light dimmed. Oh, yeah. He took her hands. I don't know what to do. It's a great opportunity, but it would mean leaving everything here. Mia's school, her friends, her routine, my mom, you. Where would you go? Could be anywhere. They have facilities in 4 different cities. I wouldn't know until after the interview process. Lena was quiet for a long moment, processing. When she spoke, her voice was carefully controlled. You should take the interview. Just like that? It's your career, Ethan. You can't pass up an opportunity like this because of me. We've only been together a few months. Don't do that. He squeezed her hands. Don't minimize what we have because you're scared. I'm not scared. I'm being practical. You have a daughter to think about, a future to plan. I can't be the reason you don't pursue something important. But you are important. This is important. He gestured between them. I love you, Lena. That's not going away just because some job offer came up. You also love your daughter, and she deserves a father who doesn't resent passing up career advancement because of a relationship that might not last. The words hit like a slap. You think we might not last? I think it's been 3 months. I think we work together and coach soccer together and have a routine, but we haven't been tested by real life yet. This job, this distance, it would test us. And I don't know if we're ready for that. Ethan stood up, needing to move. So what are you saying? That I should take the job and we should break up? I'm saying you should take the interview and see what happens. Make the best decision for you and Mia. And if that decision includes moving away, then we figure out what that means for us. Long distance? Maybe. Or maybe we acknowledge that timing isn't on our side. Lena's voice cracked. I don't want to hold you back, Ethan. I can't be that person. You're not holding me back? Aren't I, though? You're hesitating because of me, because of what we might lose. That's the definition of being held back. They stared at each other across the living room, and Ethan felt the familiar pattern emerging. Lena retreating, protecting herself, finding reasons why things wouldn't work before they had a chance to fail naturally. I'm taking the interview, he said quietly. Not because I've made any decisions, but because you're right. I need to at least see what the opportunity is. But I'm not making any choices about us without talking to you. We're in this together, remember? Together, Lena repeated, but she sounded uncertain. She left shortly after, claiming an early morning, and Ethan spent the rest of the night staring at the ceiling, wondering if he'd just made everything worse. The interview was scheduled for the following Thursday. Ethan took a personal day, drove 2 hours north to the regional office, and sat through 4 hours of meetings with people who asked questions about his leadership philosophy and operational efficiency and how he'd handle managing multiple facilities. He answered honestly, professionally, drawing on his years of experience. But his heart wasn't fully in it, distracted by thoughts of Mia and Lena and the life he'd built that he wasn't sure he wanted to leave. At the end, Janet Reeves walked him out. You interviewed well. We'll be in touch by Monday with next steps. Thank you for the opportunity. Can I give you some advice? Janet paused by the elevator. I've been in operations management for 20 years. Turned down 3 promotions early in my career because I was scared of change, of disrupting my family's routine. Finally took one when my kids were teenagers, and it was the best decision I ever made. But I also watched colleagues take promotions that destroyed their marriages, their relationships with their kids, because they prioritized career over everything else. What's the advice? Figure out what matters most. Not what should matter, not what you think you're supposed to want, what actually matters to you. Then make your decision based on that. She pressed the elevator button. And talk to the people it affects. Don't try to protect them by making choices alone. That never ends well. The drive home gave Ethan too much time to think. about career trajectories and practical considerations, and the fact that this promotion would mean financial security for Mia's future, college fund, better opportunities, the kind of stability he'd been working toward for years. But it would also mean less time with her, more travel, more responsibility, evenings spent in hotels in different cities instead of at home helping with homework. And Lena, how could they build something real if he was gone half the time? He picked up Mia from school, and she immediately sensed his mood. How was your thing? My thing? The work thing you had today. You said you had meetings. It went fine. They're considering me for a promotion. Like a better job? Yeah, kind of. Mia was quiet for a moment, watching the scenery pass. Would we have to move? His heart clenched. Maybe, I don't know yet. I don't want to move. I like my school, and my friends, and Coach Park. I know, Bug. But you should take the promotion if it's good for us, right? That's what grown-ups do. They make hard choices for their families. Where are you getting this stuff? TV and grandma, and also I'm very wise for my age. Despite everything, Ethan smiled.
You are pretty wise. That evening, after Mia was in bed, his phone rang. Lena, how did the interview go? Good. I think. They said they'd call Monday. That's great. She sounded tired. I'm happy for you. Are you? A pause. I'm trying to be. I want what's best for you, Ethan, even if it complicates things for us. Everything complicates things for us. That's kind of our pattern. Maybe that's a sign. Or maybe it's just life, being complicated and messy and requiring us to actually work at this instead of giving up every time something gets hard. Lena sighed. I'm not giving up. Aren't you? Because from where I'm sitting, you've already decided this is going to end badly. I'm trying to be realistic. You're trying to protect yourself. There's a difference. The line went quiet for so long, Ethan thought she'd hung up. Then quietly, what if I can't do this? Long distance, uncertainty, all of it. Then we figure something else out.
But I need you to at least try before deciding it's impossible. Okay, Lena said finally. Okay, I'll try. They talked for another hour about nothing important, both of them avoiding the elephant in the room. When they finally hung up, Ethan felt unsettled and anxious in ways he couldn't fully articulate. The weekend brought its usual soccer practice, but the dynamic was off. Lena was professional and friendly with the kids, but distant with Ethan. They barely spoke beyond logistics about whose turn it was to set up cones. Mia noticed. Did you and Coach Park have a fight? Not a fight, just some stuff we're working through. Is it about the promotion thing? Kind of. Are you going to break up? I hope not. Mia kicked her soccer ball against the fence, thinking, Emma's dad took a new job last year. He travels a lot now. Emma says she doesn't see him as much, but when she does, he's really present. Like actually paying attention instead of being distracted. She says it's better quality time, even if there's less of it. Is that supposed to make me feel better about potentially taking a job that means traveling? I'm just saying it's not automatically bad. Change isn't always bad. Sometimes it's just different. When had his daughter become so insightful? Ethan pulled her into a hug. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You're just now noticing. Monday came with agonizing slowness. Ethan spent the day jumping every time his phone rang, his stomach in knots. The call finally came at 3 p.m. Mr. Cole, this is Janet Reeves. I'm pleased to offer you the position of District Operations Manager. The word should have brought joy. Instead, Ethan felt a strange numbness. The position would be based out of our main facility, which, as you know, is about 2 hours from your current location. Starting salary would be, she named a figure that was 40% higher than what he currently made, with full benefits, relocation assistance if needed, and a company vehicle. We'd like you to start March 1st, which gives you about 6 weeks to transition. That's very generous. You've earned it. Your performance reviews are excellent, your team loyalty is notable, and we believe you have the leadership skills to excel in this role. Janet paused. I'll need your answer by Friday. Take the week, think it over. Discuss with your family. After she hung up, Ethan sat in his office staring at nothing. This was it. The decision he'd been avoiding was now concrete and real, with a deadline attached. He called Lena. Can you come over tonight, after Mia's asleep? They offered you the job. It wasn't a question. Yeah. Congratulations. She sounded like she was being strangled. I'll be there at 9. The hours until 9 p.m. felt like years. Ethan went through the motions, dinner with Mia, homework help, bedtime routine, while his mind spun through scenarios and possibilities. He could commute. 2 hours each way was brutal but doable. He could relocate and have Mia stay with his mom during the week, see her on weekends. He could turn down the job and hope another opportunity came along someday. Every option felt wrong. Lena arrived exactly at 9, her face carefully composed. They sat on the couch, maintaining distance, and Ethan told her everything. The salary, the start date, the expectations. When he finished, Lena said, "You should take it." Just like that? It's an incredible opportunity. You'd be foolish not to. What about us? We'll figure it out. Long distance, weekends, whatever works. You don't believe that. I want to believe it. That's not the same thing. Ethan turned to face her fully. Lena, I need you to be honest with me. Really honest. Can you do this? Can you handle me being gone during the week, only seeing each other on weekends, building a relationship on phone calls and text messages? She opened her mouth, closed it. Tears welled in her eyes. I don't know. That's honest, at least. I'm sorry. I want to be the person who says yes, who's supportive and confident we can make it work. But I've never been good at long distance. I've never been good at uncertainty. And I'm terrified that I'll screw this up by being too needy or too distant or too anything. Ethan took her hands. So we don't do long distance. You're turning down the job? I'm saying there might be other options. What if you came with me? Lena stared at him. What? Move with me. You could find a quality control position at one of the facilities I'd be overseeing, or somewhere else in the area. Mia could start fresh in a new school. We'd be together. Ethan, we've been dating for 3 months. I know how long we've been dating. I also know I love you, and I don't want to lose you because of geography. You're asking me to give up my job, leave my life, move 2 hours away for a relationship that's barely started. I'm asking you to take a chance on us, on what we could be if we actually committed to it, instead of always keeping one foot out the door. Lena pulled her hands away, stood up, started pacing. This is insane. People don't make decisions like this after 3 months. Some people do. People who know what they want. And what do you want, Ethan? Really? You. He stood, moved toward her. I want you in my life, in Mia's life, permanently. I want to stop being scared of building something real because it might fall apart. I want to choose you. Even if it means I have to give up everything I've built here, I'm giving up everything too. My team, my routine, the life I know. We'd both be starting over, together. Lena shook her head, tears streaming down her face now. I can't. I'm sorry, but I can't make that kind of commitment when we barely know each other. We know each other. You know me better than almost anyone. That's not the same as being ready to uproot my entire life. They were both crying now, the conversation spinning into territory neither of them wanted. Then what do you want? Ethan asked, his voice breaking. Tell me what you want, and I'll do it. I want this to be easier, Lena shouted. I want us to have more time before making impossible choices. I want to not feel like I'm being forced to choose between my career and you. You're not being forced. Yes, I am. If you take this job, we either do long distance, which we both know won't work, or I give up everything to follow you, or we break up. Those are my options, and they all feel terrible. Ethan felt something inside him crack. So what are you saying? Lena wiped her face, took a shaking breath. I think maybe we need to take a break. Let you make this decision without the pressure of us. Let me figure out what I actually want instead of being terrified all the time. A break. Just until you're settled in the new job. A few months, then we can revisit. No. The word came out flat. I'm not doing the break thing. We're either together or we're not. Ethan, I spent 6 years in a marriage where someone had one foot out the door, always hedging their bets, never fully committed. I'm not doing that again. Either you want this, want us, Enough to fight for it, or you don't. Lena looked at him with devastation in her eyes. That's not fair. Neither is asking me to accept a break when what you really mean is you want to end this, but you're too scared to say it. I don't want to end this. Then what do you want, Lena? Because I'm standing here telling you I love you, that I want you in my life permanently, that I'm willing to figure out how to make this work, whatever it takes. And you're telling me you need space, so what the hell am I supposed to do with that? She didn't answer. Just stood there crying, looking lost and scared and unable to give him what he needed. Ethan felt his heart break. I think you should go. Ethan, please, just go. Lena left, and Ethan collapsed on the couch, putting his head in his hands. He'd just been offered the career opportunity of a lifetime and had his heart shattered in the same day. The universe had a terrible sense of timing. He didn't sleep that night. Instead, he sat in his living room making lists, weighing options, trying to find a solution that didn't exist. By morning, he'd made a decision. On Friday, he called Janet Reeves. I'm honored by the offer, but I have to decline. My daughter's life is here, my support system is here. I can't uproot her for a job, no matter how good the opportunity. Janet was gracious in her disappointment. I understand. Family comes first. If anything changes, let me know. After he hung up, Ethan felt hollow. He'd turned down the promotion, lost Lena anyway, and had nothing to show for it except the familiar walls of his small house and the certain knowledge that he'd made the right choice for all the wrong reasons. That weekend, he didn't go to soccer practice. Couldn't face seeing Lena, couldn't pretend everything was fine in front of the kids. He sent Mia with Sarah and Emma, making excuses about work. Mia saw right through him. You're avoiding Coach Park. I'm not avoiding anyone. Dad, I'm 8, not stupid. I know you're not stupid, Bug. I just need some space right now. Did you break up? The directness of the question nearly broke him. Yeah, we did. Mia's face crumpled. Because of the job? Because of a lot of things. It's complicated. Everything's always complicated with grown-ups. She grabbed her soccer bag with more force than necessary. This is stupid. You love her, and she loves you, and you're both being stupid. Mia, I'm going to practice. Maybe one of you will figure out how to not be stupid by the time I get back. She slammed the door on her way out, leaving Ethan alone with his thoughts and regrets. On Monday morning, he dragged himself to work feeling like he'd aged 10 years over the weekend. The warehouse felt smaller somehow, claustrophobic in ways it never had before. He'd turned down an opportunity to escape this, and for what? A relationship that had fallen apart anyway. At 10 a.m., his office phone rang. Internal extension, quality control. His heart stopped. He answered. Cole? Ethan, it's Lena. Don't hang up. What do you want? There's a situation. Inventory discrepancy in the refrigerated section. Significant enough that corporate's flagging it as potential theft or fraud. They're sending auditors again. When? They're already here. Ethan closed his eyes. Of course. Because the universe wasn't done kicking him yet. I need you to pull all shipping records from the past month, Lena continued, her voice strictly professional. Cross-reference with inventory logs. There's a pattern suggesting someone's been systematically underreporting outgoing shipments. You think someone on my team is stealing? I think the numbers don't add up, and we need to figure out why before corporate assumes the worst. I'll pull the records. Ethan? Her voice softened slightly. I'm sorry about this. The timing is terrible. Timing's always terrible. I'll have the records to you in an hour. He hung up before she could say anything else, then spent the next hour buried in spreadsheets and shipping manifests, looking for the discrepancy Lena had flagged. She was right. There was a pattern. Small amounts, consistently underreported over the past 6 weeks. Not enough to trigger immediate red flags, but enough to add up to significant missing inventory. The problem was, the pattern didn't point to one person. It crossed multiple shifts, multiple team members, suggesting either a coordinated effort or a systematic error in how they were recording shipments. Ethan printed everything and walked it to quality control, his stomach in knots. Lena was in her office with 2 corporate auditors, different ones this time, which somehow made it worse. Mr. Cole, The lead auditor, a man in his 60s with steel gray hair, gestured to a chair. Thank you for joining us. We have questions about these discrepancies. What followed was 2 hours of interrogation disguised as professional inquiry. They wanted to know about his team's procedures, his oversight methods, his quality control checks. They implied without stating that either he was complicit or incompetent, maybe both. Through it all, Lena sat silent, her face carefully neutral, occasionally adding technical details, but never defending him, never offering support. Not that he'd expected her to. They weren't together anymore. She had no obligation to protect him. When the auditors finally dismissed him, Lena followed him into the hallway. I'm going to figure this out, she said quietly. Find what's actually causing the discrepancy. Why? Why do you care? Because despite everything, I know you're not stealing from the company. And I know your team. They're not thieves. There's another explanation. You have that much faith in me? I have that much faith in the evidence. The pattern's wrong for theft. It's too consistent, too systematic. This feels like a process failure, not criminal activity. Thanks for the vote of confidence in my processes, Ethan said bitterly. That's not what I meant. I know what you meant. I'll be in my office if you need anything else. He walked away before she could respond, feeling brittle and angry and so tired of everything being hard. Back in his office, he stared at the same walls he'd been staring at for years, wondering how his life had become such a mess. He'd turned down a promotion to stay here, lost the woman he loved, and was now under investigation for potential theft. If this was the universe's idea of a joke, he wasn't laughing. His phone buzzed, text from Lena. Lena, I think I found something. Can you come to QC? Ethan, on my way. When he got there, Lena had her office door closed, multiple screens pulled up showing data and graphs. Look at this. She pointed to one screen. The discrepancies started 6 weeks ago, right after we implemented the new inventory software update. Okay. The update changed how partial pallets are recorded. Instead of counting individual units, it's supposed to calculate based on pallet weight and average unit weight. That's more efficient. It would be, except the average unit weight in the system is wrong. Someone input 2.3 pounds instead of 3.2 pounds. So every partial pallet shipment for the past 6 weeks has been underreported by about 30%. Ethan stared at the screen, relief flooding through him. It's not theft. It's a data entry error. Exactly. The inventory's not missing. It's been shipped. We've just been recording it wrong. Lena pulled up another screen. I can trace every discrepancy to shipments that involved partial pallets. No theft, no fraud, just bad data. Who entered the wrong weight? IT did, during the software update. They were supposed to pull the numbers from our product database, but they typoed it. Nobody caught it because the system was supposed to be automated. Ethan wanted to hug her, or cry, or both. You saved my ass. I did my job, which is finding the truth, not just assuming the worst. She turned to face him. I'm going to present this to the auditors. They'll verify the data, close the investigation. You and your team are clear. Thank you. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do. Ethan moved closer. You didn't have to dig this deep. You could have let them assume it was process failure on my end, maybe even used it as justification for, I don't know, whatever. I would never do that. Lena looked hurt. Regardless of what's happening between us personally, I'm not vindictive. I'm not going to sabotage your career because we broke up. I know, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have implied. He rubbed his face. This week has been hell. Yeah, for both of us. They stood in her office, the weight of everything unsaid filling the space between them. Finally, Lena said, I heard you turned down the promotion. News travels fast. Marcus told everyone. They're calling you a hero for choosing family over career. I'm not a hero. I just made the only choice I could live with. Even though it cost you us? Ethan met her eyes. Losing you cost me us. The job was just the catalyst. Lena looked away. I'm sorry for how I handled everything, for being too scared to take a chance, for asking you to make impossible choices and then not being brave enough to help carry the weight. I'm sorry too, for pushing too hard, too fast, for not giving you the time you needed. Time wouldn't have changed anything. I would have been just as scared 6 months from now.
So what do we do now? I don't know. Lena's voice was small. I miss you. I miss Mia. I miss feeling like I belonged somewhere. But I don't know how to fix what's broken. Before Ethan could respond, his phone rang. His mother. He answered with a sense of dread. Ethan, it's Mia. She's hurt. His world stopped. What happened? Soccer practice. She collided with another player. The coach called an ambulance. We're heading to county hospital now. Ethan was already moving, grabbing his keys. How bad? I don't know. She's conscious, but in pain. They think maybe a concussion, possibly a broken arm. Just get here. I'm on my way. He hung up and Lena was standing, grabbing her own keys. I'm coming with you. You don't have to She's my player, and Lena's voice broke. I need to make sure she's okay. Please. They drove separately, Ethan breaking every speed limit, his mind filled with horrible possibilities. Mia hurt, Mia scared, Mia in pain. He should have been at practice, should have been there instead of wallowing in his office. At the hospital, his mother met him in the ER waiting room, her face tight with worry. They're examining her now. The coach said she went up for a header and collided with another player, landed badly. Can I see her? They said they'd come get you when she's ready. Lena arrived moments later, pale and shaking. She didn't ask permission, just walked straight to Ethan and wrapped her arms around him. He held her tight, drawing strength from her presence. She's going to be okay, Lena whispered. She's tough. She's going to be fine. When the doctor finally called them back, they went together, Ethan, Lena, and his mother. Mia was on a bed, looking small and scared, with a brace on her left arm and a butterfly bandage above her eye. Dad! She tried to sit up, winced. Easy, Bug, stay still. Ethan moved to her side, taking her good hand. How are you feeling? It hurts, and I'm mad because I was winning. Despite everything, he smiled. Of course you were. The doctor explained, mild concussion, sprained wrist, no broken bones, but significant bruising. They wanted to keep her for observation overnight. After the doctor left, Mia looked between Ethan and Lena, registering their proximity, the way they were holding hands without seeming to realize it. Are you guys back together? Bug, this isn't the time. Did it take me getting hurt for you to stop being stupid? Mia, Lena said gently, your dad and I are complicated. No, you're not. You love each other. He turned down a job to stay near you. You just drove however fast to check on me even though we're broken up. Those aren't complicated people. Those are people who are being stubborn. Out of the mouths of babes, Ethan thought. His 8-year-old daughter lying in a hospital bed with a concussion was absolutely right. Ethan looked at Lena, really looked at her, and saw his own fear and hope reflected back. Mia was right. They'd been so busy protecting themselves from potential hurt that they'd created actual hurt, the kind that came from walking away from something real before giving it a proper chance. She's right, he said quietly. We have been stubborn. Lena's eyes filled with tears. Epically stubborn. The kind of stubborn that makes no sense. The worst kind. Mia made an exasperated sound. Are you guys going to keep agreeing about being stubborn, or are you actually going to fix it? Let the adults handle this, Bug, Ethan said, but he was smiling. The adults have been handling it terribly so far. Maybe you need an 8-year-old's perspective. His mother, who'd been watching from the doorway, laughed. She's got you there, sweetheart. The nurse came in to check Mia's vitals, shooing them into the hallway. In the sterile corridor with its fluorescent lights and antiseptic smell, Ethan and Lena faced each other properly for the first time since the breakup. I'm sorry, Lena said first, for being so scared that I sabotaged us, for not being brave enough to take a chance when you needed me to. I'm sorry too, for pushing too hard, for putting impossible pressure on a relationship that was still new, for making you feel like you had to choose between your life and me. It wasn't impossible pressure. It was just life happening faster than I was ready for. Lena took a shaky breath. When you asked me to move with you, I panicked. Not because I didn't want to, but because I did. And that terrified me more than anything. I've spent so long being independent, not needing anyone, that the idea of restructuring my entire life around someone else felt like losing myself. I never wanted you to lose yourself. I know.
But I was so busy being afraid that I didn't stop to think about what I might gain. A partner. A family. A life that's bigger than just me and my job and my carefully controlled routine. She stepped closer. I've been miserable without you, Ethan. Absolutely miserable. And I kept telling myself it was for the best, that we were too complicated, that the timing was wrong. But the truth is, I'm just a coward who pushed away the best thing that's happened to me in years because I was too scared to fight for it. Ethan reached for her hands. You're not a coward. You're careful. There's a difference. Careful is checking the temperature logs twice. This was cowardice. Okay, maybe it was a little bit cowardice, he agreed, and she laughed wetly. But I wasn't exactly brave either. The second things got hard, my first instinct was to make unilateral decisions without really talking to you. I turned down that promotion without giving you a real chance to weigh in on what we could do.
You turned it down because of Mia. That's being a good father. I turned it down because I was scared. Scared of failing. Scared of disrupting everything. Scared of making the wrong choice. And then I lost you anyway, so all that careful protection didn't protect anything. They stood in the hospital hallway holding hands, both of them crying now. So where does that leave us? Lena asked. I don't know. But I know I don't want to be without you. I know that these past 2 weeks have been the worst I've felt since my divorce. And I know that my daughter is right. We're being stupid. Monumentally stupid. What if we start over? Not from the beginning, but from right now. No impossible choices, no ultimatums. Just us, figuring it out together one day at a time. Lena nodded, tears streaming down her face. I'd like that. I'd really like that. Ethan pulled her into his arms, and she came willingly, burying her face in his shoulder. They stood there for a long moment, holding each other while doctors and nurses moved around them, while machines beeped and announcements echoed over the PA system, while the world continued spinning. When they finally pulled apart, his mother was watching them with undisguised satisfaction. About time you two figured it out. How long have you been standing there? Ethan asked. Long enough. Now get back in there and tell my granddaughter she was right. She's going to be insufferable about it, but she deserves the victory. Mia was indeed insufferable about it. When they walked back into her room together, clearly reconciled, she gave them the biggest I told you so grin Ethan had ever seen. I fixed you, from a hospital bed, with a concussion. You're very accomplished, Lena said, sitting on the edge of the bed carefully. How are you feeling, sweetheart? My head hurts and my arm hurts, and I'm probably going to have a cool scar. Mia touched the butterfly bandage gingerly. But I'm happy you guys aren't being stupid anymore, so that makes it better. We're going to try really hard not to be stupid going forward, Ethan promised. Good, because you're really bad at being apart. Dad was sad all the time, and Coach Park looked like she was going to cry every practice. I did cry, Lena admitted. Multiple times. Ask the dogs at the shelter. They were very supportive. Dogs are good listeners, Mia said seriously. Then, are you going to stay while I'm in the hospital? If that's okay with you. It's very okay. You can tell me soccer stories. Dad only knows about dinosaurs and warehouse stuff. Hey, I know other things. Name 3 things that aren't dinosaurs or work. Ethan opened his mouth, closed it. That's harder than it should be. Everyone laughed, and the tension that had been sitting in Ethan's chest for 2 weeks finally loosened. They stayed with Mia through the evening, taking turns sitting with her, bringing her ice chips and adjusting her pillows. Ethan's mother went home around 8, promising to return in the morning with fresh clothes. Lena stayed, curled up in the uncomfortable chair by the window, refusing to leave even when Ethan suggested she go home and sleep in an actual bed. I'm staying, she said firmly. She's my player, and you're mine. So I'm staying. Something warm bloomed in Ethan's chest at the word mine. Simple and possessive and exactly what he needed to hear. Around 10 p.m., Mia finally fell asleep, her breathing evening out into the gentle rhythm of childhood rest. The nurse had checked on her twice, pronounced everything looking good, said they'd probably be able to go home in the morning if her symptoms stayed stable. Ethan and Lena sat in the dim room,
The only sound Mia's soft breathing and the occasional beep from the monitor tracking her vitals.
I've been thinking, Lena said quietly, not wanting to wake Mia, about the promotion, the one you turned down. Lena, we don't have to, Sul. Just listen. Please. She shifted in her chair to face him. You turned it down for Mia, which was the right choice. But you also turned it down for me, and I hate that. I hate that I made you feel like you had to choose. You didn't make me feel anything. I chose because I wasn't willing to even discuss options. I got scared and shut down, and you made a decision based on my fear. Lena leaned forward. What if you called them back, asked if the offer was still available? It's been 2 weeks. They've probably filled the position. Maybe, but maybe not. It's worth asking. I thought you didn't want long distance or to move. I don't want long distance, Lena agreed, but I've been doing some research. There are 3 food processing facilities within 40 minutes of their main office. All 3 have quality control departments. All 3 have posted job openings in the past 6 months. Ethan stared at her. You research job opportunities? I told you I've been miserable. Miserable people do desperate things, like browse job postings at 3 a.m. while eating ice cream straight from the container. What kind of ice cream? Rocky Road, because I'm a cliché. Despite everything, Ethan smiled. You'd really consider moving, starting over somewhere new? I've spent my whole life in this city. Same job, same routine, same carefully constructed comfort zone. And you know what? I'm bored. I'm 36 years old and I'm bored of my own life. Lena's voice grew stronger. Moving would be scary, but staying here without you would be worse. So yes, I'd consider it. I'd more than consider it. What about your coaching? The kids? There are kids everywhere who need soccer coaches. I can volunteer wherever we end up. She paused. And Mia's in 2nd grade. She's young enough that changing schools wouldn't be traumatic, especially if we time it right for the school year. You've really thought about this. I've thought about nothing else for 2 weeks. Well, that and how much I missed you. Ethan got up from his chair, crossed to her, and knelt beside her. I miss you too. Every day. Every hour. I'd wake up and reach for my phone to text you, then remember we weren't talking. It was torture. So call them tomorrow. See if the offer's still available. And if it is, then we make a plan. Together. We figure out timing, logistics, all of it. We do it as a team instead of as 2 scared individuals trying to protect ourselves. What about the warehouse? Your job there? It's just a job. I'm good at what I do, but I can be good at it anywhere. You and Mia, you're not replaceable. You're the life I want to build, not the job I happen to fall into. Ethan felt his throat tighten with emotion. I love you. I know I've said it before, but I need you to really hear it. I love you, Lena Park. The stubborn, intense, occasionally inflexible, absolutely wonderful you. I love you too. The defensive, dinosaur-obsessed, surprisingly tender you. They kissed in the semi-darkness of the hospital room, gentle and sweet and full of promise. When they pulled apart, Mia's sleepy voice drifted over from the bed. Are you guys being gross? Because I'm injured and I shouldn't have to witness gross stuff. We thought you were asleep, Ethan said. I was. Then you guys started talking loud about feelings and jobs and stuff. It's very disrupting to my healing. But she was smiling, visible even in the dim light. But I'm glad you're working it out. You're much better together. Go back to sleep, Bug. I will. But Dad? Yeah? If we move, can I get a dog? Since I'll be leaving all my friends in my school and everything, a dog seems like fair compensation. Lena laughed quietly. She's negotiating from a hospital bed. I respect that. We'll discuss the dog situation when you're not concussed, Ethan said. That's not a no! Mia snuggled back into her pillows, victorious. The next morning brought discharge papers, medication instructions, and strict orders about rest and monitoring for concussion symptoms. Mia was disappointed to miss school, but thrilled about the prospect of being waited on for the next few days. Ethan's mother collected them from the hospital, eyeing Ethan and Lena's linked hands with satisfaction. So you worked it out? We're working on it, Ethan said. That's all anyone can do. Work on it every day until one day you realize you've built something that works.
At home, they got Mia settled on the couch with pillows and blankets, her favorite stuffed dinosaur, and a carefully curated selection of movies. Lena had to leave for a shift at the animal shelter, but promised to return that evening with dinner. Nothing fancy, she warned. Probably just takeout. Takeout is perfect, Ethan assured her. Everything is perfect as long as you're here. Gross, Mia called from the couch. Stop being gross in front of the injured child. After Lena left, Ethan sat with his phone, staring at Janet Reeves's contact information. It had been 2 weeks. The position had probably been filled. But Lena was right. It was worth asking. He dialed before he could overthink it. Janet answered on the second ring. Ethan Cole, I was wondering if I'd hear from you again. I'm calling about the district manager position. I know I turned it down, and I know it's been 2 weeks, but I wanted to ask if there was any possibility. We haven't filled it yet, Janet interrupted. The other candidate we were considering took a different position. I was actually planning to call you next week to see if you'd reconsidered. Relief flooded through him. I have. Reconsidered, I mean. My situation has changed. For the better, I hope? Yeah, definitely for the better. The offer stands as it was. Same salary, same start date, though we could push that to April 1st if you need more time to relocate. Would that work? That would be perfect. I need to coordinate with my daughter's school, and my partner would need time to job search in the area. Partner? Janet's voice warmed. Good for you. Work-life balance is important in this role. I'm glad you'll have support. They talked logistics for another 20 minutes. Ethan would come up next week to sign paperwork, meet with HR, and tour the facilities he'd be overseeing. The extra month would give him time to transition his current team, help Lena job search, and prepare Mia for the change. When he hung up, Mia was watching him from the couch with knowing eyes. You took the job. I did. How do you feel about that? I feel like you should have taken it 2 weeks ago and saved everyone a lot of drama. She adjusted her ice pack. But I'm glad you're taking it now. And I'm glad Coach Park is coming with us. We haven't told you officially that she's coming. Dad, please. I'm 8, not oblivious. She researched jobs. You guys are gross in love. Obviously, she's coming. Mia paused. Can I switch schools at the end of this year instead of waiting until next fall? I read that transitions are easier at natural breaking points. Where are you reading this stuff? The internet is very educational. So can I switch schools in May instead of September? Ethan thought about it. The new school year started in late August. If they moved in early April, Mia would have to finish 2nd grade at her current school, then start 3rd grade fresh in the new city. It actually made sense. Yeah, Bug, I think that's a good plan. Excellent. I'll need a goodbye party, something with a bouncy house, and a dog as a going-away present. You're relentless. I'm strategic. There's a difference. That evening, Lena returned with Chinese takeout and a nervous energy that suggested she had news. They ate first, letting Mia dominate the conversation with detailed plans for her goodbye party that was apparently now a certainty, before Ethan finally asked what was going on. I have a phone interview, Lena said. Thursday. With Anderson Foods, they're one of the processors near the main office. Quality control manager position. That's amazing. How did you... I applied last week, before the hospital, before we made up. I applied because I realized that job wasn't what was keeping me here. Fear was. So I decided to at least explore options. She picked at her low mane. I didn't want to tell you in case I didn't get an interview. Didn't want to get your hopes up. Are you nervous? Terrified. I've been at the same company for 12 years, same warehouse, same routine. The idea of starting over somewhere new is... She broke off, laughing shakily. It's terrifying and exciting, and I might throw up. You're going to be amazing, Ethan said firmly. They'd be lucky to have you. You have to say that. You're contractually obligated as my boyfriend. Boyfriend? Mia perked up. So it's official. It's official, Lena confirmed. If that's okay with you. It's very okay. Can I be in the wedding? Mia! Ethan felt his face heat. We've been back together for like 24 hours. But you will get married eventually, right? Because you're in love and you're moving in together. We're not moving in together, Lena said quickly. I'll get my own place when we relocate. That's stupid. You're going to end up living together anyway. Might as well save money and skip the extra steps. How are you 8? Ethan demanded. I'm very mature for my age. Grandma says so. Grandma says a lot of things she shouldn't. They finished dinner with Mia lobbying hard for cohabitation, a dog, and apparently a destination wedding in Hawaii. Ethan and Lena exchanged amused glances over her head, both of them recognizing that while the 8-year-old's timeline was aggressive, she wasn't entirely wrong about the trajectory. The next few weeks were a blur of activity. Ethan gave notice at the warehouse, much to the dismay of his team. Marcus looked like someone had kicked his puppy. You're really leaving? I'm really leaving, but you're getting promoted to my position, so it's not all bad. It's not the same, man. You built something here. The team respects you. They'll respect you too. Just maybe take quality control's recommendations more seriously than I did, and you'll be fine. Lena's phone interview went well enough to warrant an in-person interview the following week. Ethan drove up with her, ostensibly for his own onboarding meetings, but really to provide moral support. They made a weekend of it, exploring the town that would become their home, looking at school districts for Mia, checking out the dog-friendly parks. This could work, Lena said, standing in the center of a neighborhood they both liked. This could really work. Yeah, it could. She got the job offer on Tuesday, called Ethan from her car, crying so hard he could barely understand her. I got it! They offered me the position. That's incredible. I knew they would. The salary is actually higher than what I make now, and they have better benefits, and the quality control director I'd be reporting to seems amazing, and she broke off, laughing through tears. I'm moving. We're really doing this. We're really doing this. Telling her current employer was harder. Lena had been there for 12 years, built relationships, established protocols. Walking away from that felt like closing a chapter of her life. But she did it with grace, giving proper notice, documenting all her processes, training her replacement. On her last day, her team threw her a surprise party in the break room. Even people from other departments showed up, testament to how respected she was despite her reputation for strictness. Ethan watched from the doorway, proud and a little awed by this woman who'd come into his life and turned everything upside down in the best possible way. At the warehouse, his own goodbye was equally bittersweet. His team gave him a plaque that read, "Best boss who actually listened sometimes," which was probably the most accurate thing anyone had ever given him. You're going to do great things, he told them during his farewell speech. And you're in good hands with Marcus. Be patient with him while he figures it out, just like you were patient with me. You weren't that bad, someone called from the back. I made you restack an entire pallet of product because I didn't understand quality control's weight distribution requirements. Okay, you were kind of bad at first, but you got better. They laughed, and Ethan felt the weight of 12 years in this place settle over him. He'd started here as a floor worker right after Mia was born, worked his way up through sheer stubbornness and desperation to provide for his daughter. This warehouse had been his proving ground, his battlefield, his second home. Leaving it felt significant in ways he couldn't fully articulate. His last day was a Friday in late March. The weather had turned warm, spring arriving early with blooming trees and longer daylight. Ethan packed up his office, said his final goodbyes, and walked out of the warehouse for the last time as an employee. In the parking lot, Lena was waiting by his truck. How are you feeling? Weird, sad, excited, all of it at once. Yeah, me too. She leaned against his truck. We're really doing this crazy thing. We really are. What if we fail? What if we move and it's terrible and we hate it and we've upended our entire lives for nothing? Then we'll figure something else out, together. Lena smiled. Together. I'm still getting used to that word. Well, you better get used to it fast because you're kind of stuck with me now. Kind of stuck with you? I'm about to move 2 hours away and start a new job in a new city. I'm extremely stuck with you. Best decision you ever made, Ethan said, pulling her close. Second best. The first best was agreeing to that blind date. You tried to leave after 5 minutes. But I stayed for tiramisu. That's what counts. They kissed in the warehouse parking lot, both of them unemployed for the first time in over a decade, both of them about to start fresh in a new place, both of them terrified and hopeful in equal measure. The move itself was chaos. Ethan had accumulated more stuff than he realized, and Lena was meticulously organized in ways that both helped and hindered the packing process. "Why do you have 17 boxes labeled kitchen miscellaneous?" she asked, surveying his packing job with dismay. "Because it's miscellaneous kitchen stuff? That's not a system, Ethan. That's just putting things in boxes." "Isn't that what packing is?" She looked at him with the same expression she used when explaining temperature logs to new hires. "We need to repack everything. We're moving in 3 days. Then we'd better work fast." They did repack everything, with Lena's obsessive labeling system that made Ethan's eyes cross but would undoubtedly make unpacking easier. Mia supervised from the couch, still on light activity due to her concussion, providing commentary and occasionally helpful suggestions. "You should throw out those old work boots, Dad. They're gross." "Those are comfortable." "They're disgusting. Coach Park, back me up." Lena examined the boots in question. "I'm with Mia. Those need to go. This is a conspiracy." "It's called having taste," Mia said primly. They decided not to move in together immediately, despite Mia's lobbying. Lena had found a small apartment 15 minutes from Ethan's new rental house, close enough to be convenient, but separate enough to maintain some independence as they figured out this new phase of their relationship. "Give us 6 months," Lena had said when explaining the decision to Mia. "Let me get settled in my job. Let your dad get comfortable in his new role. Let you adjust to your new school. Then we can talk about the next step." "Fine," Mia had agreed grudgingly, "but I'm setting a timer." Moving day arrived with perfect spring weather and too many helping hands. Ethan's mother had recruited half her church group. Lena's friend Diana had mobilized her own network, and somehow they ended up with 20 people loading trucks and carrying boxes. "This is excessive," Ethan said, watching 3 grown men argue about the best way to carry his couch. "This is family," his mother corrected. "Taking care of each other. Let them help." The drive to the new city felt surreal. Ethan followed the moving truck with Mia in the passenger seat, watching the familiar landscape give way to new territory. Lena drove her own car behind them, her important belongings packed in her trunk, ready to start her new position on Monday. "You okay, Bug?" Ethan asked, noticing Mia's unusual quiet. "Yeah, just thinking." "About?" "How everything's different now. New house, new school, new city. Even Coach Park is different. She's not just my coach anymore. She's your girlfriend." "Is that okay? All the different?" Mia considered. "I think so. Different isn't bad. It's just different, and we're doing it together, so that makes it better." "When did you get so wise?" "I've always been wise. You're just now noticing." They pulled up to the new house around 2 p.m., a 3-bedroom rental in a good school district with a fenced backyard that Mia had immediately claimed for the future dog she was still lobbying for. The moving team unloaded with remarkable efficiency, and by 6 p.m. they had furniture in place and boxes stacked in their designated rooms. Lena's apartment was smaller and took less time. By 8 p.m. she was mostly unpacked, her furniture arranged with the precision of someone who'd measured everything beforehand. "You color-coded your bookshelves," Ethan observed, looking at her living room. "What's your point?" "I love you, that's my point. I love that you color-coded your bookshelves. You say that now. Wait until you see my spice cabinet organization." That night, after Mia was asleep in her new room, Ethan and Lena sat on his back porch watching the stars. The neighborhood was quieter than their old one, the sky darker, the air fresher. "We did it," Lena said quietly. "We actually did it." "Having regrets?" "No." Terrified, but no regrets. She leaned against him. "Ask me again in 6 months when the reality has set in." "I will. And you'll tell me it was worth it." "How do you know?" "Because you're here. And I'm here. And Mia's here. That's all that matters." The first few weeks were an adjustment period for everyone. Ethan started his new position and immediately felt overwhelmed by the scope of responsibility. Managing 4 warehouses instead of 1 shift was exponentially more complex, requiring constant travel and strategic thinking that left him exhausted. Lena threw herself into her new job with characteristic intensity, learning systems and establishing relationships with a determination that both impressed and worried Ethan. She was working 10-hour days, coming home drained, falling asleep on her couch with her laptop still open. "You need to pace yourself," he told her one evening when he stopped by her apartment. I need to prove myself, show them hiring me wasn't a mistake. Nobody thinks hiring you was a mistake. You don't know that. I know you, and I know that you're brilliant at what you do. They're lucky to have you. She'd smiled tiredly and let him hold her, but the tension didn't leave her shoulders. Mia had her own struggles. The new school was bigger, the kids were different, and she came home that first week quiet and withdrawn in ways that broke Ethan's heart. Give it time, his mother advised over the phone. She's resilient. She'll find her people. On Friday of the second week, Mia came home with a permission slip for the school soccer team and a tentative smile. Tryouts are next week. Can I go? Of course you can go. The coach seems nice, not as nice as Coach Park, but nobody's as nice as Coach Park. You want me to tell her you said that? Obviously, she needs to know she's my number one coach. At the tryouts, Mia's skills spoke for themselves. She made the team easily and suddenly had built-in friends and a sense of belonging. The change in her was immediate and visible. She started talking more, smiling more, engaging with her new life instead of just enduring it. Lena came to Mia's first game, cheering from the sidelines with an enthusiasm that made the other parents smile. After, they got ice cream to celebrate, the three of them sitting at a picnic table in the spring sunshine. I like it here, Mia announced, chocolate ice cream smeared on her face. I didn't think I would, but I do. Yeah? Ethan felt relief wash over him. What changed? I made friends, and my teacher is really nice, and there's a girl in my class who's obsessed with dinosaurs too, so we're starting a paleontology club. She took another bite of ice cream. Plus Coach Park lives close now, so she can come over whenever. That's better than before. I'm glad you think so, sweetheart, Lena said. Can we get a dog now? I've been patient, and I adjusted to the move, and I made friends. Those were all the requirements. Ethan and Lena looked at each other. They'd been discussing the dog situation, had even visited a local shelter last weekend, though they hadn't told Mia yet. What if I told you we might have already found one? Ethan said. Mia's eyes went huge. What? When? Where? Can I meet it? Is it a boy or girl? What kind? Her, she's a girl, a retriever mix, about 2 years old. The shelter said she's good with kids and house-trained. When can we get her? Tomorrow. If you promise to help take care of her. Mia launched herself at Ethan, nearly knocking over his ice cream. Yes, I promise. I'll walk her and feed her and train her and love her forever. We're calling her Comet, Lena added. The shelter named her, and we thought it suited her. Comet, I love it. Can we go meet her right now? The shelter's closed, Bug, but tomorrow morning, first thing. That night, Mia couldn't sleep, too excited about the dog. Ethan sat on the edge of her bed, watching her stare at the ceiling with wide eyes. You really like it here? He asked quietly. I really do. I was scared it would be terrible, but it's actually kind of great. She turned to look at him. Are you happy, Dad? Yeah, Bug. I am. What about Coach Park? Is she happy? I think so. She's working hard, but she's adjusting. Good. Because I want you both to be happy. You deserve happy. Ethan felt his throat tighten. You deserve happy too. And I'm glad you found it here. We all found it, together. She yawned, finally getting drowsy. That's how it's supposed to work, right? Family finding happy together? Yeah, that's exactly how it's supposed to work. The next morning, they picked up Comet from the shelter, a golden-colored dog with soulful eyes and a tail that never stopped wagging. She took to Mia immediately, and Mia was instantly, completely in love. Best day ever, she declared, sitting in the backyard with Comet's head in her lap. Top 5 best days of my entire life. Watching his daughter with the dog, Ethan felt something settle in his chest. They'd made it. Through the chaos and fear and impossible choices, they'd actually made it to the other side. New city, new jobs, new life. And it was working. That evening, after Mia and Comet had worn each other out playing in the backyard, Lena came over for dinner. They grilled burgers while Mia gave Comet a comprehensive tour of the house, explaining each room's significance in great detail to the patient dog. She's happy, Lena observed, watching through the kitchen window. She is, thanks to you. Thanks to us, we did this together. We did. Ethan turned to her. How are you, really? You've been working yourself to death. I'm good. Tired, but good. The job is challenging in the best way. Every day I'm learning something new, solving problems I've never encountered. It's exhausting, but exhilarating. She smiled. And I'm happy. Happier than I've been in years, maybe ever. No regrets about moving? None. You? Not a single one. They kissed over the grill, and Mia yelled from inside, Gross! Not in front of Comet. She's innocent. 3 months into the new life, on a warm July evening, Ethan took Lena to Marcello's. He'd found one in their new city, a different location but the same family-owned chain, same checkered tablecloths and Chianti bottles with dripping candles. You're being weird, Lena said as they were seated at a corner table. Why are you being weird? I'm not being weird. You're absolutely being weird. You've been fidgety all day. The waiter came, a different waiter, but with the same warm enthusiasm, and took their drink orders. When he left, Ethan reached across the table and took Lena's hands. 6 months ago, we sat in a restaurant just like this one, both of us convinced it was going to be the worst night of our lives. I remember. I wanted to die of embarrassment. Me too, but instead we stayed for tiramisu, and then we kept staying for coffee, for soccer practice, for late-night texts and early morning drives. We stayed through fights and audits and impossible choices. We stayed even when leaving seemed easier. Ethan, what are you... Let me finish, please. He squeezed her hands. You made me brave enough to take risks I'd been avoiding for years. You made me believe that loving someone didn't have to mean losing myself. You made my daughter smile in ways I'd forgotten were possible. You made our small life bigger and better and infinitely more complicated, and I wouldn't change a single thing. He let go of her hands, reached into his pocket, and pulled out a small velvet box. Lena's eyes went wide. Oh my! I know it's fast. I know we said we'd take things slow, but here's the thing about slow. It doesn't work for us. We've never done anything slowly. We jumped into fighting, jumped into dating, jumped into moving cities together. So why not jump into this? He opened the box, revealing a simple diamond ring that caught the candlelight. Marry me, Lena. Not someday, not when the timing's perfect, because the timing will never be perfect. Marry me now, while we're both terrified and hopeful and building this beautiful mess of a life together. Lena was crying, both hands over her mouth. This is insane. Completely insane. We've only been together 8 months. I know. People will say we're rushing. Probably. Mia's going to be impossible about this. She's going to claim she planned the whole thing. 100%, Lena laughed through her tears. You're sure? Because I'm a lot. I'm intense and particular, and I'll probably reorganize your entire house according to some system you don't understand. I'm counting on it. I might accidentally turn into a complete control freak about wedding planning. I expect nothing less. I love you so much it terrifies me. I love you too. So marry me. Please. Yes. The word came out choked with emotion. Yes, of course, yes, you ridiculous man. Ethan slipped the ring on her finger and she launched herself at him, kissing him while other diners applauded, and the waiter stood nearby with a huge grin. I knew it, the waiter said. I told the chef, I said, that man's going to propose. We have complimentary champagne for you. They laughed and cried and held each other while the restaurant buzzed around them. When they finally pulled apart, Lena looked at the ring on her finger with wonder. Mia doesn't know you are doing this, does she? Are you kidding? She helped pick out the ring. I took her to 3 different jewelers last week. She kept that secret? Barely. She's been dying to tell you. I promised her she could be the one to call everyone after you said yes. Can we go tell her now? I can't wait to see her face. They skipped dinner and drove straight home, both of them giddy and laughing. Ethan's mother was watching Mia, and when they burst through the door together, Mia took one look at their faces and screamed, She said yes! I knew it! I knew she'd say yes! She ran to them, and they caught her in a group hug, all 3 of them laughing and crying. Comet ran circles around them, barking with excitement she didn't understand but fully embraced. Can I see the ring? Did she cry? Did Dad cry? Did he do the speech I helped him write? Some of it, Ethan admitted. I improvised the rest. The improvised parts were very good, Lena said, admiring the ring. Very romantic. I'm going to be in the wedding, right? You promised I could be in the wedding. Of course you're going to be in the wedding. You might be the entire wedding party. Excellent. I have ideas, so many ideas. I made a Pinterest board. You're 8. How do you have a Pinterest board? The internet is very accessible, Dad. You should really monitor my screen time better. Ethan's mother hugged them both, tears in her eyes. I'm so happy for you two. You've earned this. We really have, Lena agreed, leaning into Ethan's side. We've earned every difficult, beautiful, complicated piece of this. That night, after everyone left and Mia finally went to bed, Ethan and Lena sat on the back porch with Comet at their feet, looking at stars and processing the enormity of what they'd just committed to. So we're doing this, Lena said. Getting married. We're doing this. When? Whenever you want. Tomorrow, next year, whenever feels right. What about the fall? October, maybe? When the weather's nice but not too hot? October sounds perfect. That's only 3 months away. Can we plan a wedding in 3 months? We moved our entire lives in 6 weeks. I think we can handle a wedding. Lena laughed. Fair point. She turned the ring on her finger, watching it catch the porch light. I can't believe this is real. 6 months ago, I was eating ice cream alone at 3 a.m., convinced I'd ruined the best thing in my life. And now I'm engaged and living in a new city and happier than I knew was possible. Life comes at you fast. It really does. She looked at him, her eyes soft in the darkness. Thank you. For what? For not giving up. For fighting for us even when I was too scared to fight for myself. For showing me that taking risks can lead to something beautiful instead of just heartbreak. You did the same for me. You made me believe in possibility again. They sat in comfortable silence, hands linked, while around them the night settled in. Somewhere inside, Mia and Comet were sleeping. Somewhere in the city, their new lives were waiting to be lived. And for the first time in longer than Ethan could remember, the future felt full of promise instead of fear. 5 months later, on a perfect October afternoon with leaves turning gold and the air crisp with autumn, Ethan and Lena stood in a garden and promised forever to each other in front of everyone who mattered. Mia served as the officiant. They'd gotten special permission for it, and she took her duties very seriously, reading the ceremony script she'd helped write with only minimal improvisation. Ethan's mother cried through the entire thing. Diana was Lena's maid of honor and spent most of the ceremony trying not to sob. Rachel gave a toast that was equal parts embarrassing and heartfelt, reminding everyone that this had all started because she'd refused to take no for an answer about a blind date. To impossible beginnings and beautiful endings, she'd said, raising her glass, and to my brother finally learning that love isn't something to be afraid of. To Ethan and Lena, everyone chorused, to love and new beginnings and taking chances on the right person. The reception was small and intimate, just family and close friends, with string lights and good food and dancing that lasted until the stars came out. At one point, Ethan stood on the edge of the celebration watching Lena dance with Mia, both of them laughing, Comet weaving between their legs trying to join in. His mother appeared at his elbow. You look happy, sweetheart. I am happy, deliriously, terrifyingly happy. Terrifying is good, means it matters. It matters more than anything. I know. She squeezed his arm. Your father would have loved her, would have loved seeing you like this. Ethan felt his throat tighten. His father had died when he was 19, too long ago for Mia to remember meeting him, but not so long ago that Ethan had forgotten his wisdom. He would have told me I was being an idiot for almost letting her go. He would have. And then he would have helped you fix it, just like I did. You helped? Who do you think told Lena where to find you when you were avoiding each other? Who suggested she research job opportunities? Who told Mia that sometimes parents need a little push from their kids? Ethan stared at his mother. You meddled. I facilitated. There's a difference. She smiled. Now go dance with your wife before she marries someone more attentive. Ethan crossed the dance floor and tapped Mia's shoulder. Mind if I cut in? Only if I get to dance with Grandma. She promised to teach me the Charleston. The what now? But Mia was already gone, dragging his mother onto the dance floor, leaving Ethan alone with Lena.
"Hi, wife," he said, pulling her close. "Hi, husband." She smiled up at him. "How are you feeling?" "Like the luckiest man alive." "Good answer." They swayed to music that was too fast for slow dancing, but neither of them cared. Around them, people celebrated and laughed and danced. Above them, stars began appearing in the darkening sky. And between them, everything that had been broken or scared or carefully guarded was now whole and brave and completely open. "I love you," Ethan said, because he could never say it enough. "I love you too. Even though you're a terrible dancer, I have many other qualities." "You do, but dancing isn't one of them." He kissed her, there in the middle of their wedding reception, and felt the rightness of it settle into his bones. This was what he'd been missing for so long without knowing it. Not just love, but partnership. Not just companionship, but true connection. Not just someone to share his life with, but someone who made his life bigger and better and infinitely more worth living. When they pulled apart, Mia was watching them with undisguised satisfaction. "I planned this entire thing, you know," she announced to anyone within hearing distance. "This wedding, this marriage, all of it. I'm basically a genius." "You're basically something," Ethan agreed. "A genius matchmaker. Say it." "You're a genius matchmaker." "Thank you," she grinned. "Now, when do I get a little brother or sister? Because Comet's great, but I'd also like a human sibling." "Mia!" Lena's face went bright red. "What? I'm just planning ahead. I'm very strategic about these things." Ethan and Lena looked at each other over their daughter's head. Their daughter now, legally and emotionally and in every way that mattered, and started laughing. Because this was their life now, complicated and chaotic, and full of 8-year-olds who thought they ran the world, and they wouldn't change a single thing. Later, much later, after the reception ended and guests went home, and Mia was asleep in Ethan's mother's guest room, Lena and Ethan drove to their house, their shared house now, because she'd moved in 2 months ago despite Mia's teasing about finally catching up to the obvious plan. They walked through the door together, Comet greeting them with enthusiastic tail wags, and Ethan thought about that night at Marcello's almost a year ago. The blind date he'd dreaded, the woman he'd thought he couldn't stand, the tiramisu that had changed everything. "What are you thinking about?" Lena asked, kicking off her wedding shoes with a sigh of relief. "That wrong table, that first night. Best mistake anyone ever made." "Not a mistake. Fate disguised as chaos." "You believe in fate now?" "I believe in us, which might be the same thing." Lena crossed the room and wrapped her arms around him, and Ethan held her close, breathing in the scent of her perfume and feeling the steady beat of her heart against his chest. Outside, the October night was cool and clear. Inside, their home was warm and full of evidence of their life together. Mia's soccer trophies on the mantel, Comet's toys scattered across the floor, wedding gifts still waiting to be unpacked. A beautiful mess of a life that they'd built from scratch, from conflicta and chemistry, and the stubborn refusal to give up on something worth fighting for. "Hey, Lena?" "Yeah?" "Thanks for staying for tiramisu." She smiled against his shoulder. "Thanks for being worth staying for." And in that moment, in that house, with that dog and that daughter sleeping safely under his mother's roof, Ethan Cole was exactly where he was supposed to be. Not because life was perfect or easy or without complications, but because he'd finally learned that the best things in life were often the ones you didn't see coming. Sometimes love showed up disguised as conflict, sitting at the wrong table in an Italian restaurant, challenging everything you thought you knew about yourself. And if you were brave enough or stubborn enough to stay for dessert, you might just discover that the wrong table was the right one all along.